Good morning, class. Any doubts? Any doubts up till 91? Globalization, benefits of globalization. Are the globalization reforms clear what India was trying to do? 91, what all steps were taken for globalization? There were three major things. One, we had the impact of devaluation is clear. Devaluation is done to improve the trade balance. How does devaluation improve the trade balance? The export quantity. This becomes competitive. The quantity of export increases, but quantity of imports should fall because imports are getting costly. This is why devaluation will help improve the trade balance. Then the another step was, first we shifted to a liberalized exchange rate management system. India had first fixed exchange rate, where who was determining the exchange rate? The RBI. Liberalized exchange rate management system had 40% by RBI, 60% market. And next year, 93, we shifted to a unified market exchange rate. And market exchange rate, what is the role of RBI? The RBI can intervene. It is called as a managed float. Who decides the exchange rate? It's the market supply and demand which decides the exchange rate, but RBI can intervene if there is too much volatility. And when we shifted to unified market exchange rate, we also had a system which we introduced, convertibility. And what was convertibility? And convertibility only on current account, not on capital account. Capital account is still restricted. What is convertibility? Ease of conversion of the currency, rupee to dollar or vice versa, or any other currency, without any interference, without any permission. This is the idea of convertibility. So in 1993, Government of India shifts to unified market exchange rate and allows convertibility on current account. On capital account, the convertibility is still partial, it's still limited. Is this clear? Before this, we also had the concept of exim scrip. Exim scrip is no longer required once convertibility is allowed. Why? What was the idea of exim scrip? If someone wants to import an exporter 30% of his value, he can import without any restriction. Now it's not just 30%, he can import anything because we have full convertibility on current account, and export import is part of current account. So it's not necessary that only 30%, whatever you want to do, you are allowed. There is no restriction. Then we also had certain reforms with respect to reducing the import duty and the quota restrictions. Remember, import duty and quota were quite strict before 91. We reduced a lot of duty and quota restrictions. See, all of these things are important, not just because they happened in 91, because all of these policies are followed right now also. In fact, this is a very important thing right now happening, where the government is working on import duty and import quota, going against globalization, protectionism. So this debate we are having on globalization, the benefits and the problems, this has a relevance because these steps are again we are doing it. 91 se pehle we had a very strict protectionism regime. We are introducing protectionism again by changing the import duties and quotas. This is something we are changing yet again. Is it clear what the globalization reforms were and what are the benefits? Why did we do globalization? What is the benefit of globalization? Efficiency. The best reason is that you are going to have a resource allocation will not be wasteful. Why? Resource allocation will not be wasteful. Why? Huh? People are producing according to their specialization. And we also talked about global value chains. What are global value chains? Global value chains means the value is added across different geographies. The idea is value addition is happening across geographies. Now one part is not made at one product is not made at one place. The whole product is broken down into different parts, and different parts are made at different places. This means you have the best efficient utilization of resources. Is it clear why globalization gives benefits? Then what else are the benefits of globalization? Globalization induces competition. Competition means whoever has the highest productivity across the world is going to sell maximum products. This means you are going to get a lot of efficiency. This is the reason why most of the countries, the tiger economies, China, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, everyone has grown because they were competing with the rest of the world. This is why this is called as the export-led model of growth. They were exporting to the world, facing competition. That means efficient products, good quality products. It's the quality and the cost both improve. Less cost, high quality. This is why China is called as the factory of the world. It produces the goods at a higher quality at a lesser cost because it is facing competition from rest of the world. You are getting good quality products. There's no shortages, no scarcity. Then what else? See, and these things you have to relate to what is happening right now itself. Right now, if the government has increased the import duty, that means this is becoming a problem. Protection means you're protecting from the competition. That means your quality and cost both can change. This is why import duty becomes an export tax. Because if your duty is high, that means you're not getting the best product of the outside world. Therefore, whatever you produce, your cost of production will also increase. Cost of production increase, that means export is facing a tax because of higher import duties, because you are not being made available the best product available in the global markets. Is it clear? This is how you have to relate what is happening right now with what is the benefit and what's the problem. Then what else is the benefit? Yes, companies can earn profits because they can now produce at scale. They can capture the global market, thereby giving them more profits, meaning more jobs. What else? We discussed the need of capital. FDI is going to bring the dollars. FDI is going to bring the FDI is also going to impart new skills. So important that investment happens from other countries, because a poor country, underdeveloped country would never have the technology to move to the next value chain. It is the foreign direct investment which provides all of this, not just fulfills the saving investment gap, but brings in the dollars, brings in the technology, and also brings in the skill. Then what else? Another is people to people movement. You have skill sharing, people, ideas, technology and everything. The technology gets better because of the movement of natural persons. Brain drain from India. Most of the companies, the top management comes from people who have an Indian origin. So this is globalization. Similarly, we can also have people from outside teaching us various skills. Is it clear what's the benefit of globalization? Now, what are the problems of globalization? How? How does it compromise sovereignty? तो trade है ना, trade में तो हमेशा ऐसे होगा. Sovereignty compromise होगी, but not like this. Dependency. So what is the problem of import dependency? What is the problem? No. If they can worsen it. Trade का मतलब ही है कि they won't worsen. The whole idea, if you do more trade, more commerce, that means there are less problems you will have in your economy, because it's not just a problem for India, it's a bigger problem for China. $100 billion, if we stop doing it, this is a massive problem for China. They are selling $100 billion. This is trade imbalance, $100 billion ka. So what exactly is the good going to go to? We can make our economy self-dependent by increasing the cost for a short while, but where is China going to sell that product? This is why do you think India has a very good relation with US? We are nowhere any equal partners because of the market which India provides to the US companies. The whole reason is commerce. So trade, in fact, is a reason to not fight. Pakistan is a different case. वहाँ तो फिर इंडिया में पाकिस्तान का मैच कौन देखेगा? Dependency imports. What is the problem if we have a dependency on imports? Biggest problem, you're not manufacturing goods in your own country. That means these are being produced somewhere else. Factors of production are for someone else. That means who is creating the jobs in your economy? If low-end manufacturing is happening in China, then who exactly is creating the jobs in India? And India has a peculiar problem that most of the people are in agriculture, industry and now this is a problem that agriculture who are here, they are low skilled. Low skilled can move to lower skilled activity in industry only. They can't move to higher skill, that is services. Now this transition cannot happen because India is, if most of the goods are imported from the outside country, you will not be able to transition, you will not be able to create jobs. What else? How? So this is what dependence imports ऐसी तो बनेगी. वो goods नहीं बनेंगे तभी imports होगा तो who is creating the jobs? This is how it will happen. If they will compete, they will not be able to compete, and then no jobs. What else? Unequal competition, they will get destroyed. What else? How imports is stagnant GDP. Loss of कैसे cultural identity क्या है इंडिया की? How? How are we exploiting the cultural identity? और cultural identity है क्या? Or in fact, this is a mixed match. See, there's nothing good, bad, or there's nothing one identity. ऐसा तो you can say a lot of Indian music is also going outside. Diljit is performing in US. People don't understand, they're still dancing. Coachella में perform किया ना दिलजीत ने. How do you say it's an erosion of culture? Because everything is mixed match. There's no one culture you can define as predominantly Indian culture. What is Indian culture? Indian culture is also a mixed match because it has grown over the years. You have learned a lot of things from the outside world. Political identity of India is 1947 onwards. Before that, where were the political boundaries of the country? And the trade, whatever was happening with the rest of the world meant you had so much of interactions. Modern Indian history, कुशान्स आए हैं, Greeks आए, उन्होंने सिखाया कितना कुछ. क्या है आइडेंटिटी? यही क्वेश्चन है. हाउ आर यू इंडियन? हाउ डू यू प्रूव योर कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी इज इंडियन? व्हाट इज इंडियन? कुर्ता पजामा पहन के आए हो? इज इट इंडियन? फिर क्या इंडियन है? क्या है इंडियन है उसमें? कम्युनिटी. फीचर्स, गिव मी द फीचर्स. संस्कृत में बात कर रहे हो भाई? Sanskrit you can say came from. Kinship, how is it only Indian? Kinship is your proximity, right? And now proximity is also because of social media and everything. Proximity doesn't mean physical distance. You can have proximity with people across the border. Pakistan से आ रहे हैं लोग. Kinship हो रही है. जा भी रहे हैं यहाँ से. Exchange. And exchange of people I meant. So what's this? This is very controversial. You can say कि पहले first आपको define करने पड़ेंगे certain basic features. Then you'll say we are moving towards only one monolithic feature. For example, westernization or modernization का जो concept है. You're blindly copying what happens there. Then you are losing what you are for because एक ही direction में सब जा रहे हैं. We are not growing organically. But this would not economics में. You'll discuss this in society. What else is the problem of globalization? Dumping of goods, imports. How? Yes, this is sovereignty. What? The biggest problem is that if you are going to get benefits of the outside world, you are also going to get the fluctuations of the outside world. 2008 financial crisis, this happened in what country? USA, but its impact was seen in rest of the countries also, including India. Consider another economic shock that happened in the form of COVID-19. COVID-19 became pandemic. Why? Because of globalization. If people would not have, there would not have been too much of exchanges, you would not have that would always remain an epidemic. That would not have been broken down into a pandemic because of globalization. The increased exchange is what has caused the pandemic. And all of these crises, right, starting from 97, Asian financial crisis also, all of these have a very significant impact on the Indian economy also. So any volatility, any fluctuations in the global economy, you have an impact on the Indian economy. Consider what has happened after pandemic. In the US economy, what happened? There was a lot of inflation. In the US economy, they were printing a lot of money after 2008. Pandemic mein supply shock laga and there was a lot of inflation in the US economy. Usually developed economies don't see such record inflations because they don't face supply shocks. But they faced inflation. What did the central bank do? Do you have an idea if inflation happens, what happens? Here the interest rate by the central bank will increase. If interest rate in the US economy will increase, what will happen in India? The dollar invested in India, they came here, why? Because they wanted better returns. Now their own economy is offering better returns. Are they going to go out? And if the dollar goes out, what will happen in the Indian economy? We are going to have a depreciation of the currency, where the currency is moving to very high levels. When in a very short span of time, is there a volatility happening in the Indian economy? Now see how depreciation did not help the Indian economy. Though depreciation or devaluation helps, why? Export quantity increases and import quantity falls. But depreciation did not help the Indian economy, because at the export front, though Indian exports were becoming competitive, but the quantity did not increase, because this time is coinciding with a time where global growth is not significant. So though the exports became competitive, less priced, but their quantity did not increase because the global demand was not there. Slowdown चल रहा है, quantity improve नहीं हुई सस्ता होने के बाद भी. And on the other hand, India is doing a lot of imports, and these imports are something which is necessary for India, and a lot of goods were being imported, necessary plus all other manufacturing goods also. Now the price of imports increases. If the price of imports increases, this becomes a problem, that import burden is increasing, but exports did not increase because quantity did not increase. So how a change in the outside economy has brought the fluctuation in the Indian economy? That your imports have become costly because of depreciation. Not just imports. Consider a company A who has borrowed money from someone outside. This is called as external commercial borrowings. Commercial because by a corporate body, external from outside India, they have borrowed in dollars. So if someone had borrowed $100 at 5% interest rate, when they borrowed the money, the price was, and now when they have to return the money, the price is, I'm not talking about interest, principal हुई उनको ज़्यादा पैसे इकट्ठे करने पड़ेंगे. So this means that you have a volatility. This is just one root of volatility. That you have too much of investments happening in India, and they will reverse their flow, causing problems for the Indian economy. This is how 2008 also it happened. A lot of dollars were there in the Indian economy, and people started going out. Not just this, there was a bank in India which had a significant exposure to Lehman Brothers is the investment bank which collapsed in the 2008 financial crisis. Roughly 200 million was the exposure of ICICI Bank. They are the ones who had bought the Lehman Brothers securities. So it's not just other people investing in your country, you also have invested in other countries. So if any problem happen in those economies, those problems are going to come in your economy also. And how the problem comes, because you have significant outflow of dollars. Same thing happened in 97, same thing happened in 2008. The moment a crisis happens, dollar outflow happens. The moment dollar outflow happens, ekdam se quantity nahi badhti export ki, but import price will increase on the first day itself. And India has certain necessary imports which it has to do. So the import bill increases, the export doesn't increase. Also the external commercial borrowing increases, exposing the economy to a huge amount of volatility. This is how inflation also happens in the Indian economy. Now, if you're using those imports and their price rise, will you see inflation? People who are getting these imports, उनको अपना price बढ़ाना पड़ेगा क्योंकि import का price बढ़ गया है. So a lot of problems can happen in the Indian economy. This volatility comes from outside the countries. This volatility was not a result of something which was a problem in our economy. So we are not just facing the repercussions or the benefits of the outside world, we are also facing the negative side of the outside world. Any crisis, any problem anywhere, you are going to face problems. Is it clear how globalization brings a lot of volatility and fluctuations in the domestic economy? Is it clear? What else could be the problem? Increase in? That you can say that's a pattern of growth, carbon footprint. How exactly that will happen? Why would that happen? Why is it because of globalization? Logistics, okay. Anything else? One reason could be that FDI exploits a lot of resources in our country, not giving us a lot of benefits. And this is what we started with. See, one more thing is your sovereignty gets compromised. You've done sovereignty. What is sovereignty? What? External? Independent? Internal? Supreme. Yes. There's only one who is supreme. The supreme power, abhi aayenge parliament mein. Sovereignty, how is sovereignty compromised? The sovereignty, the whole idea is that decision making is not influenced by someone else. We are the ones who are going to take our decisions. Now the problem is that there are a lot of international institutions that try to take away this sovereignty. For example, IMF, and even the problem with these bodies is that these bodies have an impact on the whole global trade, monetary policy, and even fiscal policy to a certain extent. But the issue is that the participation of the developing countries and the least developed countries is minimal in these bodies. These bodies have the participation of the developed world. And developed world try to drive their policies, their agendas in the developing countries through three supranational bodies. So the sovereignty gets compromised because they are deciding for our country and we don't have participation. The biggest problem is that India does not have a participation in these bodies. This is why the decision making can be in favor of developed and not of developing. There are a number of examples how this has happened. Consider in 1985 to 95, India had seen a yellow revolution in oilseeds, but the moment WTO came in 95, the revolution fizzled out. Why? Because WTO follows just one principle, that is liberalization of trade. That meant despite whatever your condition is, you have to reduce the import duty on oilseeds. And if you reduce the import duty in oilseeds, that means you face significant competition. Your own domestic market has no time to adjust or adapt. This is WTO influenced policy that is impacting. Consider IMF, whatever conditionalities it imposes on countries to accept the loan. 1967, we had certain conditionalities, we fulfilled conditionalities, still half of the loan was not given. 1991, whatever reforms have been done, roughly half of the reforms were given by the IMF. Devaluation happened because devaluation was the first condition of IMF, then only you are going to get a loan. The problem is not the conditionalities. The problem is who decides the conditionalities. Do we have decision-making power or not? Consider any forum, be it your sustainable development goals. All of these sustainable development goals under UNDP, does India have significant participation to decide how sustainable development goals are going to happen? And these sustainable development goals is only one direction which all countries have to take. So you're deciding the growth pattern without giving them participation powers to decide what goes inside these goals. Same thing with any climate related forum. Now, one of the problems with climate change is that to adapt to climate change, we need to have differentiated responsibilities. Why differentiated responsibilities? Because the developed world has already used a lot of coal and thermal energy to power their growth. Now the implication, you can't have the same responsibility on India because India is still energy poor. And coal is the cheapest source of energy. So you can't say that India should be climate responsible when India is already a poor country. You have given growth and development to your country based on coal, but now you are asking us to do this. So this means you will have to provide us the finance. Because if we have to, a poor country has to transition, it has to get the finance for this transition because your growth came on coal. Now you can't say everyone has the same responsibility. This is why the principle is called as common but differentiated responsibility. अब ये principle accepted है, common but differentiated responsibility, but to back this principle, you have to give finance. And no international body is giving finance to the developing countries so as to adapt to climate change, so as to mitigate the impacts of climate change. This is why India has started with this own sharing of technology, because the developed world is reluctant to help India. Yes, US is helping, that is mostly bilateral. So most of the policies, now if you have pressure from the outside world to act on climate change and at the same time you are energy poor, how without help are you going to transition? So transitioning to even electric vehicles, if we don't have lithium ion and nobody is helping us get the lithium ion, but you are making us shift to energy, the electric vehicles, you have to provide support. That means all of our policy decision making is not decided by our own country, but the agenda is set by the developed world. They have captured most of the international institutions and they are the ones who are driving the agenda where it has to move. Without participation in the decision-making forums, this means your sovereignty is compromised. Someone else is deciding for you what to do. For example, 91 IMF had given us the conditionalities. Yes, we accepted. We did more also what IMF did not ask, because this was the condition of India. But most of it was given by IMF only. World Bank, WTO, all of these bodies are driven by the developed world, not giving any participation to the developing countries. Consider one of the things of WTO, it is called as trade-related intellectual property right matters. This means that intellectual property right का एक common norms होगा across the world. COVID-19 vaccine, this is a global health emergency, and still the waiver on TRIPS was given after a request, and only the waiver came for vaccines. The waiver never came for the raw materials or rest of the supply chain, because US was reluctant to share its technology with the rest of the world. They wanted the companies to get the benefit first in a situation of global health. The global health pandemic. अब उसमें you are not sharing anything because WTO के rules, and who decided those rules? They never had the participation. The moment they understood that they had to influence, now WTO is non-functional. So most of the decision making is happening through global bodies. They are setting the tone what should be done. This means our sovereignty is compromised because we don't have the decision making power on those forums. We can't influence policy. Is it clear how sovereignty is compromised? What else could be the problem? Definitely influence FDI, we'll talk about that. What else? Tax evasion. The biggest problem in your globalization is that you have significant amount of tax evasion. Now globalization is not just movement of people, it is also movement of finance which have been made easy. Consider individuals itself. There are so many investigative reports that a lot of people inside India have sent their money outside in undisclosed locations. That means they are not paying taxes, not in this jurisdiction, not in outside jurisdiction. And you'll always find the same number of people, same names. Bolo Zuma Kesari ka har jagah naam hai. Kaun banega crorepati? Only one. He also has his name. So a lot of people are evading taxes, they're not paying the taxes, they're moving the money out. See, moving the money out because globalization also means financial globalization. Movement of funds has been made very easy, which was highly restricted before 91. Now another tax evasion happens through companies. Now this is a very huge global problem which OECD and a lot of other bodies are also tackling, how OECD or how companies evade taxes. One of the techniques how they evade taxes, this is called as base erosion and profit shifting. Now, various accounting techniques have been followed by the countries just to evade paying taxes in their jurisdiction. Now, what is base erosion and profit shifting? Consider a company A has opened an office in US. US की ही company है. And the tax rates in US is say 20%. What they do is, they open a subsidiary in another country which has lesser tax jurisdiction, lesser tax 5%, 2% and whatever. And what this company will do, if this company records a profit of say $100, the company will have to pay 20% on this $100. But what they do is, they will not show their profit here, they will only show amount of profit in this country, and rest of the profit they are going to shift to their subsidiary. Okay, we are making profits from the subsidiary and we are not making profits from your home country. That means they are going to pay only 5% substantial tax, or a lot of countries. These countries which get other companies just for tax purposes, these are your low tax jurisdictions, which are also called as tax havens. This company has not opened this branch because it wants to take any resource here or wants to provide help. This company has opened the branch only because this country has low taxes. And this company is Apple. Apple gets most of its profits from its branch of Ireland, doesn't show the profits in US. Because Apple ka most of the profits comes from design. Apple ka profit is not from manufacturing. Manufacturing is done in low income countries, Vietnam, China, India. Most of the profit comes from their design, intellectual property. And intellectual property is a thing you can record anywhere. They have registered most of their patents or have most of their intellectual property in Ireland because it is a low tax jurisdiction. So what essentially this company has done, this company has eroded the base shifted the profit. This is why base erosion and profit shifting. I am not paying the taxes at a high rate in this because I have shifted my base to someone else's country. So I'm not paying 20% on $100, I'm only paying 20% on rest of the profit I will show from a lower tax jurisdiction. Just to get the tax benefits, no other improvement. We said FDI is going to improve the other country, it brings the skill, it brings the technology, it brings in capital. The purpose was not skill, technology or capital, the purpose was only to exploit the tax jurisdiction. This is called as base erosion and profit shifting. This is very common in most of the countries. In India itself, do you know from where does the FDI come in maximum in India? There are two countries which send in the maximum FDI in India. Not US, not China. FDI. It's Singapore and Mauritius. Singapore and Mauritius, these are the two leading nations which send in a lot of investments. And why these investments? Because they are low tax jurisdictions. And India also has a double taxation avoidance agreement. So what companies do is, companies when want to invest in India, they don't directly start an office in India. They will first go to countries which are tax havens. And when their activity is already taxed here, then they invest. In a sense, tax haven से India investment इसलिए आ रहा है because these tax havens also have double taxation avoidance agreement. What is double taxation avoidance agreement? So this company opened say in Singapore. Singapore और India का double taxation avoidance agreement है. तो इस company ने अगर यहाँ tax भर दिया, it doesn't have to pay taxes in India. This is your double taxation avoidance agreement. Doubly tax नहीं होगी company, so their operations are here, they will be taxed here. But their major money is coming from the Indian market. In fact, this thing is not being just done by outside companies. Indian companies भी अब बाहर office ले जा रही हैं. A lot of Indian companies are now taking their offices to Cayman Islands, Mauritius, Singapore because of the better tax benefits they get here. And the moment you get better tax benefits, that means the country from where they are deriving their profits are not getting enough tax money. Is it clear how base erosion and profit shifting happens? In this country, you are eroding your base and you have shifted the profit somewhere else which is lower tax. Same thing happening here. I have eroded the base. I am not opening the office here. I am opening the office in low tax country. It enjoys double taxation avoidance agreement, means the tax will be applied here only, not in this country. Is this clear how tax evasion happens through company? These are important things, but base erosion and profit shifting. Money laundering not happens like this. ये तो clear route है ना, ये तो registered companies हैं. This is not money laundering. Money laundering is layering and all whatever happens illegally. जो हवाला system होता है कि 20 का नोट दिखाओ और पैसे पहुंच जाएंगे अपने आप. You don't know what the route is. That's completely illegal activity. This is a legal route which they are taking. In fact, there are two things. One thing is called as tax evasion and the other is called as tax avoidance. This is the tax avoidance technique. What is the difference between the two? Avoidance means आप legal loopholes निकालो taxation system में and do these things. ये loopholes को exploit कर रहा है. Evasion means illegal activity. Avoidance is legal. You are using loopholes. For example, if you are working in a company and you've shown India में there is an exemption 1.5 lakh if you have invested in PF. You don't invest in PF, yet you show the money you have done it. It is avoidance. You are using the loopholes. You are not evading by not showing the money. Evasion is illegal, avoidance is legal, exploiting the loopholes. Base erosion and profit shifting is avoidance. 92 what scam? वो तो ये कुछ था ही नहीं. It was not this. He was in share market, he was taking money from someone and that was completely different. Is it clear what is base erosion, profit shifting? Any doubts here? What is happening? I'm eroding my base in my parent country. I'm not paying the taxes here. I've shifted my profit here. I'm showing the profits from this country. And now most of the digital companies who have intellectual property or who are gaining through people, they will easily do this. Manufacturing activity में मुश्किल है, but services activity में बहुत आसान है करना. Shell companies is in money laundering. That's different. Is this clear? And how India this happens? Tax havens and double taxation avoidance agreements. Mauritius, Singapore, Cayman Islands, substantial FDI comes in because companies don't want to start in India, they want to start in those countries. There the taxes are low. And since you've paid the taxes here, you don't have to pay the taxes again because India has a double taxation avoidance agreement. This is how you exploit the legal loopholes of taxes between different countries to gain an advantage. This is called as tax avoidance. Using the legal ways to not pay the taxes is called as avoidance, and if you use illegal methods, it is called as evasion. Panama Papers and this was evasion. Illegal methods, money laundering happened. Money laundering usually happens through shell companies. Is this clear? What is tax evasion, base erosion, profit shifting? There's another technique for this same tax evasion and avoidance. This is called as transfer pricing. Recently, the income tax authorities raided the BBC offices. Recently, the income tax, and they complained that there were issues of transfer pricing. What happens in transfer pricing? Transfer pricing is happening within the same company, but across two different countries. For example, it produces two different parts. In country A, it is producing the whole car. In country B, it is producing just one part of the car. So what happens in transfer pricing? If this tax jurisdiction is high, say the tax jurisdiction is 30%, and here the tax jurisdiction is say 5%, where the part is being manufactured. If the part is coming for $100 and the car is manufactured for say 500, that means the car manufacturer in country A has to pay a tax on 400, because 100 पे already tax यहाँ भर दिया है, 400 पे यहाँ tax भरेंगे. This is how value addition पे tax होता है. Indirect tax is on value addition. So value addition is only 400. 100 came from some other country. 100 पे I will pay this much. Now what the company do, and this is within the same companies. These are related companies. Same parent company की है, related party transactions है. What they will do is, they will not show the part of $100. They will show that this is a part of $300. So now this company has to pay a tax of $200. That means 30% will be on 200, not on. And here, if there is more tax, but it is only 5% more tax. So cumulatively, will the company save taxes in the second scenario, where I have over invoiced my product? This is called as a provision for transfer pricing. Transfer pricing provisions are used for tax evasion by over invoicing of products. Transfer pricing means if there is a company or a related party taking goods from someone else, they will over invoice the products. जो transfer of good है, उसका price क्या है? This is being used for tax evasion. I have over invoiced my products so that I can save taxes. This will only happen when these two companies are related. Why they have to be related? Because no other party is going to take more tax for you. ये same party है, दोनों का tax मुझे ही parent company को ही भरना है. This gives me a benefit that how much price I am keeping for the transfer of goods amongst the same company. एक डिपार्टमेंट से दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट अगर गुड्स शेयर हो रहे हैं तो किस प्राइस पे शेयर होंगे? That I can change the price, which is called as tax evasion through transfer pricing. It will always happen in related party transactions. It will never happen where this party is not related, because then why will this pay 5% more tax on a higher good? But if you are part of the same company, definitely your total tax liability is getting reduced. Is this clear how transfer pricing happens? Yes. In the first case, what is the tax? 30% on 400 plus 5% on 100, right? This is the total tax the company has to pay. What is the tax in the next case? 0.3 on 200 plus 0.05 on. इन दोनों में tax ज़्यादा कहाँ पर है? This is more tax. Did I save less? Did I save my taxes? Company same है, parent company. तो जो टोटल टैक्स दिया है दोनों कंट्रीज में मिला के दूसरे केस में कम है. कैसे किया? ओवर इनवॉइस किया. Definitely I'm talking about this only. Tax evasion is happening. Forget A or B. Is tax evasion happening? This country is getting less tax. because you are doing this. Similarly, low invoice, if you send somewhere else, you can again play with the invoices, change the prices of the goods, and this country will not get taxes. This is transfer pricing. Same related party honi chahiye dono. No one else is going to pay more taxes for you because his tax is getting increased. They will not pay more taxes for you, but if you both are related to one company, the company who's paying taxes, you can definitely do this. Is transfer pricing clear? Again, process it. Kya ho raha hai? I'll give you more examples. Yes, brace erosion. मैंने कोई गुड नहीं बेचा वहां पे, या मैं गुड बेच रहा हूं और गुड का क्या प्राइस रख रहा हूं वो मैटर करता है. ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग मत. ट्रांसफर ऑफ व्हाट? आई एम सेलिंग गुड एंड सर्विस फ्रॉम वन कंपनी टू अनदर कंपनी. दो सेलिंग ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विस विल कम एट व्हाट प्राइस? दिस इज कॉल्ड एज ट्रांसफर प्राइस. के ट्रांसफर का प्राइस क्या है? आई एम नॉट ट्रांसफरिंग एनीथिंग हियर. I have opened a new body here and this body is registering profits. For example, ये है Apple US, ये है Apple Ireland. Apple Ireland सारे profits दिखाता है Apple के. Because Apple Ireland faces very less taxes. Apple US does not show any profit. Because it can do this, here taxes are low. Tax haven countries में इसलिए most of the people will open the companies because of lower tax. This is, I'm eroding the base here, shifting my profit somewhere else. What I'm doing here is, if there is a related party transaction that a company is manufacturing a good, say a company has, in country A, it is manufacturing a shirt, and in country B, it has the textile mill. Textile यहाँ पे yarn यहाँ convert हो रहा है cotton से. Now, at what price will cloth come to for this shirt making will determine how much tax A will pay. कितने price का आ रहा है? For example, I'm making a $10 shirt and the price of the cloth was $1. So I am paying a tax on $9. But if I price this cloth, which was of $1, and I say my cloth was of $8, how much of tax I'll pay here? So I'm giving a good, उस transfer का price क्या है? This is tax evasion through transfer pricing. This is what. And what happens here is it clear how this happens? Now to counter this, there are certain agreements which are called as advance pricing agreements. What happens in advance pricing agreements? Country A, the tax authorities, the company and company in B, all the three will sign an agreement beforehand कि अगर क्लॉथ यहां से यहां आता है तो कितने का आता है. हमें पहले ही बता दो, एडवांस में बता दो कि आपके ट्रांसफर जो होता है उसका प्राइसिंग क्या है. ऑल द थ्री विल साइन एन एग्रीमेंट विच इज कॉल्ड एज एडवांस प्राइसिंग एग्रीमेंट सो दैट यू कांट चेंज द प्राइसेस लाइक दिस. वी विल डिटरमाइन, इफ यू से दैट मैं $1 में क्लॉथ लेता हूं, नाउ वी विल डिटरमाइन वेदर दिस $1 इज ट्रू और नॉट. हाउ? वी विल चेक दिस through an arm length principle. What is arm length principle? That we are going to check कि अगर ये B किसी और को क्लॉथ देता है, not a related party, तो वो कितने में दे रहा है. अगर कोई कंपनी आर्म लेंथ पे है, it's not related, how much are you giving the cloth to? And if we find out that you are giving a cloth से $0.5, तो हम एडवांस प्राइसिंग एग्रीमेंट में यहाँ 0.5 ही रखवाएंगे. अब हमारे तीनों का डील हो गया कि 0.5 में आता है क्लॉथ, तो अब मैं टैक्स जब कैलकुलेट करूंगा अपना, वो 0.5 पे होगा. दिस इज डन इन एडवांस यूजिंग एन आर्म लेंथ प्रिंसिपल, दैट इफ यू डील विद समवन एल्स एट एन आर्म लेंथ, इट्स नॉट रिलेटेड. व्हाट प्राइस डू यू चार्ज? आई विल डिसाइड द प्राइस ऑफ दैट ट्रांसफर. बेस्ड ऑन दैट, नाउ आई कैनॉट हैव दिस प्रॉब्लम ऑफ ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग, क्योंकि मैंने ऑलरेडी प्राइस डिसाइड कर लिए हैं. This is called advance pricing agreements. ये tax authorities, they want to do this, people who are getting goods from other countries. Is this clear? Base erosion and profit shifting, what is happening? In base erosion and profit shifting, the company is opening a new subsidiary somewhere else and showing the profits from that country, eroding the base here and shifting the profit somewhere else. And the solution to this, OECD has recommended global minimum tax. That means minimum of 15% will have to be paid in every country. तो अब ये लो टैक्स जुरिडिक्शन जो 5% रखा था, you have to give 15. So if you keep lesser than 15, that means the extra 10% which Apple has to pay, it will pay to the parent company. 15% तो आपको टैक्स देना ही पड़ेगा, ये आपका बेनिफिट खत्म हो जाएगा कहीं और जाने का. तो अगर आपने 5-15 से जितना कम है उतना आपको पेरेंट कंपनी को देना पड़ेगा. दिस इज देयर ग्लोबल मिनिमम टैक्स रूल्स विच आर बीइंग इम्प्लीमेंटेड. So base erosion and profit shifting is a tax avoidance technique by using lower tax jurisdictions. Shift the profit by eroding the base. In transfer pricing, the transfer of goods amongst related parties, what price it happens will determine what tax is being paid. And if you over invoice, you are going to lose taxes. All of these techniques have been made possible because of globalization. You can set up units somewhere else. You can do this trade because of globalization. So countries lose a lot of tax evasion and tax avoidance. These are two mostly commonly used strategies: transfer pricing and base erosion and profit shifting. Money laundering and round tripping, that's another thing. वो आप security में you'll read how money laundering or round tripping happens. You invest in 5 different countries through shell companies and invest it back in the country, save on taxes. So base erosion and profit shifting and transfer pricing, are these two clear? Double taxation avoidance agreements. For example, Vodafone wanted to invest in India. They did not buy a company in India, they bought the company here. Why? Because this country had lower tax. तो अगर मेरा ऑफिस यहाँ पे है, lower tax, I don't have to pay taxes again in India because these countries enjoy a double taxation avoidance agreement with India. If I have opened an office here, for example, Singapore में office है, तो I'm paying the taxes in Singapore and taxes are quite low. And most of my revenue comes from Indian office. But since I've already been taxed in Singapore, I will not be taxed again in, because India and Singapore have a double taxation avoidance agreement. बिजनेस उसका इंडिया में है, इसीलिए डबल टैक्सेशन की जरूरत पड़ रही है. यूएस एप्पल डजंट वांट इट बिकॉज एप्पल इज एक्सपोर्टिंग टू रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. So he doesn't want a double taxation avoidance agreement. He's ready to pay the taxes here because he doesn't show any work here. He shows most of the work there. उसको नहीं जरूरत वहाँ पे. यहाँ पे है because आपका सारा ऑफिस, यहाँ आप कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो, सारा काम आपका इंडिया में होता है, मार्केट आपकी सारी इंडिया है. And you are exploiting the double taxation avoidance agreement. सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी, सर्विसेज कंपनी है ना, और जहां ऑफिस है वहीं से दे आर पेइंग दे हैव रजिस्टर्ड हियर. नाउ इंडियन कंपनीज आर गोइंग आउटसाइड एंड रजिस्टरिंग देयर. बिजनेस सारा वहीं पे है. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ यू सी द न्यू एज ई कॉमर्स और डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी कंपनीज, दे डोंट रिक्वायर अ प्लेस ऑफ मैनेजमेंट इन इंडिया, दे कैन वर्क आउटसाइड ऑल्सो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आपका जो स्टॉक ब्रोकरेज जो बहुत फेमस हो रहे हैं, जीरोधा और ग्रो, डू दे नीड एन ऑफिस इन इंडिया? कैन दे नॉट वर्क फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज? They'll pay lower tax there, enjoy there, and this is what is happening right now. Indian startups are going to outside countries. They're not staying in India because of better tax jurisdiction outside. यही तो लॉस, इसीलिए तो बोल रहे हैं टैक्स इवेजन, टैक्स अवॉइडेंस. हमारे लिए तो टैक्स मनी सब जा ही रहा है. This is not a benefit for India. This is loss of tax money for India. This is what we started with. We are losing taxes. Transfer pricing and base erosion profit. Nike does the same. Nike में भी a lot of big companies, billion profits ऐसे ही बने tax ना देके. They have opened up office in tax haven countries. Is this clear how it works? तो फिर वो कंपनी क्यों खोलेगी वहां पे सिंगापुर में? वो कंट्रीज वही ढूंढेगी ना जहां इंडिया का डबल टैक्सेशन अवॉइडेंस एग्रीमेंट है. केमन आइलैंड्स, मॉरिशस, सिंगापुर, जहां पे भी होगा एग्रीमेंट, वहां पे वी विल फाइंड द कंट्री. And there are a lot of countries with which India has. In fact, India is trying to reform them also. इसमें एक और concept है, but we'll not go there right now. एक poem rules हैं, but forget that. You just understand कैसे चोरी होती है टैक्स की. Yes. Arm length principle. How could you improve your price of $1 to $8? तो हम आर्म लेंथ प्रिंसिपल से देखेंगे कि अगर आप ये क्लॉथ बेचते किसी और को, आर्म लेंथ पे है, वो आप रिलेटेड नहीं है, तो आप कितने का देते? Then you would not sell to 8, because why would you take more taxes just for them? Here you are taking more taxes for your own company. Arm length means the entity whom you are selling to is an arm length. It's not related. Arm length. ऐसे खड़े होते हैं ना क्लास में. Stand at an arm length distance. ऐसे. This is arm length, not related. This is related. Is it clear? अब डबल टैक्सेशन अवॉइडेंस और सॉरी बेस इरोजन प्रॉफिट शिफ्टिंग में व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग? बेस इरोजन में यू आर शिफ्टिंग द प्रॉफिट्स टू अ लोअर टैक्स, तभी आपने कंपनी स्टार्ट की. अगर हम बोले पूरे वर्ल्ड में 15% टैक्स तो आपको देना ही पड़ेगा, देयर इज नो लो टैक्स नाउ, 15% इज एवरीवेयर. सो दैट मीन्स आयरलैंड 5%, 10% यू विल हैव टू पे टू द पेरेंट कंपनी. जहां पे आपका पेरेंट कंपनी है वहां पे आपको 10% पे करना पड़ेगा, मतलब 15% टैक्स तो आप भरोगे ही. अब ये 5 नहीं भरना पड़ेगा, यू विल हैव टू पे 15%. Whatever your cumulative profits are, you will have to pay minimum of 15. If this is low, this. अब ये jurisdiction ने जो 5 रखा था उसको कोई फायदा नहीं. Why will I open? Because I have to pay minimum 15. Is this clear? Base erosion, profit shifting. इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के लिए डबल टैक्स क्यों करे सेम बिजनेस एक्टिविटी को बार बार? हु विल स्टार्ट अ कंपनी? नो वन विल इन्वेस्ट फ्रॉम दिस कंट्री इफ यू आर टैक्सिंग देम एट 2 places. This is why all of these I'm calling as tax avoidance. I'm using the legal methods to do it. Illegal money laundering shell companies is evasion. Hawala and everything is evasion. Illegal. This is legal. You are using the legal loopholes. For example, direct taxes maybe. A lot of people claim HRA and a lot of things which they have not used. This is tax avoidance. You're not paying taxes using the exemptions. And you have not used any of the exemptions. You still file them. Why pay taxes to the government? Companies do this on a very big scale. They don't pay taxes. Is it clear? They exploit different countries just to avoid taxes, not giving them any benefits. Is this clear? How tax avoidance, tax evasion happens? The term should be clear. Base erosion, profit shifting and transfer pricing. Another thing which the foreign direct investments can do. Foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment, both types of foreign investments, we'll discuss the differences later. Any investments coming from outside, they can lead to creation of something called as asset bubble. This is how you destabilize the economy. 2008 was an asset bubble in the US housing market. 97 was a asset bubble again in the housing market, but of Thailand, Malaysia. Now what happens in an asset bubble and how do they destabilize the economy? What is an asset bubble? Any rough idea? Not the value price. What happens is, due to certain speculation or some other means, asset ka the value remains the same, but the price is increasing significantly. Now, why does the price increase significantly? Because there is certain speculation happening. For example, someone made an announcement that nearby this area there is an airport which is going to come. ये सिर्फ announcement एक rumor है, speculation है कि आएगा airport. The moment this announcement was made, people in that area started buying more land. Why? Because now their land, the demand increased because they are expecting an airport. Value land की change नहीं हो रही क्योंकि airport अभी आया नहीं है. It will change when the airport will be constructed. It's only a speculation that airport will come. But the demand increased too much because of speculation and the price started skyrocketing. 1 lakh का property turned into 1 crore within a matter of few days. But the airport never came. This is an asset. The price of the asset is increasing because of the speculation. The value did not change. Now this asset bubble is created when foreign investments start putting money in the asset, driving their demand up, pushing their prices up. They can take their money out, and the moment they take their money out, the asset bubble is going to burst. For example, the cryptocurrency bubble. The value was not changing, in fact they had no value. But everybody thought कि सब पैसे कमा रहे हैं, हम क्यों नहीं? They started pushing the prices up because the demand increased just because of speculation. RBI kept on repeating that this asset has no value, think before investing. People were still investing because they thought कि हम ही रह जाएंगे. And they pushed the prices up. The people who made money, they took the money out. The moment they took the money out, the whole bubble burst. The value fell. Now this asset bubble mostly is created by foreign investments who try to speculate in your domestic economy. 1907 Asian financial crisis was all foreign investment speculating in the real estate market in Thailand, Malaysia. And the moment they booked certain profits, they took the money out. Other people who had invested, they lost everything. Housing market in US was also an asset bubble where the demand was increased, the prices of the property increased, there was no change in value. And the moment one institution failed, all of the value was wiped off. Not just of people in US, but people outside countries, because outside countries were also investing in the US housing market. They were also taking a lot of profits, they were expecting profits. So what happens in an asset bubble? The price increases because of speculation, because of higher demand. All because of speculation. Because the value, underlying value is not changing. And whenever an external event or any event happens, the bubble gets burst, everything, the whole investment, everything gets destroyed. Because you have bought an property and appreciated price, you don't have the value in that property. Mostly happens in land market. Happened in cryptocurrencies also. Real estate, it's very common to create asset bubble because land ka supply is limited. So value is based on various other factors. This makes it easier for speculations and asset bubbles. Foreign investments mostly create asset bubbles. In fact, this asset bubble mostly it is said about the share market in India also. यही asset bubble बनाया हर्षद मेहता ने. What he did was, he got a lot of money from the banks, insurance companies, and started putting money in certain shares. The price increased, the demand was increasing because he had put in a lot of money, but there was no value. And the moment he could not pay, the price of all the share market fell. You put in a lot of money in certain shares, underlying value of the company is not increasing. Overpriced share hai. कैसे है? Because someone is speculating putting money. This is how Harshad Mehta made money. This is why he got famous. कि ये जहाँ share में डालता है वो share बढ़ता ही जाता है without increase in value. And when the bubble burst, everyone lost all value. This is how asset bubbles can be created in the domestic economy by foreign investments to destabilize the economy. Is it clear how asset bubble happens? How tax avoidance, tax evasion? Are the problems of globalization clear? You can write down these. Definitely, technology share होता ही नहीं है. It keeps you dependent on your imports. It would not share technology. ये dependence of imports क्यों हो रही है? अगर आपको कोई technology ही दे दे तो आप अपनी country में बना लोगे ना वो product. Why do you think you want to have dependence? Why is China not sharing technology or US? They will never share the technology because they earn the money through technology. Apple doesn't share any technology with anyone. Designing sub in-house करता है Apple. Samsung still outsources the designing of semiconductor chips to someone. Apple does it on its own. जो A1 chips बनाता है, Apple designing सब करता है. Manufacturing definitely happens somewhere, but design is what they do. I will keep my dependence on imports by not sharing any technology with you. Because the moment I share technology, you will... वही Adidas, Avibas बना देगा. The moment you share the technology, you are going to get the product. And they will keep you dependence ऐसे ही बनाते हैं. Never share them. Tesla, see Tesla, what is it doing right now? Tesla wants, in India, this is called as another term, enclave economy. What happens here? Tesla is a company from US. So what Tesla is saying, when we come into India, we are not going to interact with the Indian economy. That means any raw material, intermediate good, we are not going to take from you. The only benefit is cheap labor we are going to use. We are not going to give any benefits to any companies. जो भी हमारा यहाँ plant लगेगा वो सब कुछ ही import कराएगा. That means it is creating its own enclave where it is not giving any benefits to the domestic economy and getting all of the products imported. So what is the benefit India has if Tesla comes to India? Until and unless, jobs would not be significant. Car manufacturer कितनी jobs बना देगा? And consider benefit क्या होता अगर Tesla यहाँ आता, Tesla a car manufacturer requires a lot of raw material and intermediate goods. तो वो हमारी supply chain सारी improve हो जाती. Because Tesla would demand higher quality. They would force to do that. Tesla, whatever products it wants, it will tell the design specification, quality specifications. The whole supply chain in our country would have improved. But they are saying we are not going to interact with your domestic economy, we are only going to create an enclave. हम सब कुछ बाहर से ही मंगाएंगे, यहाँ सिर्फ assemble करेंगे. So there's no point because value addition is not happening in India. That means my domestic supply chain is getting no benefits. ये सिर्फ इंडिया की resource exploit होगी और कुछ नहीं होगा. That is cheap labor. So this is a problem. I keep my dependence because I don't want to share technology because I know the moment parts and everything, technology might get copied. They are reluctant and they are not trusting the Indian manufacturers. Then how does the Indian manufacturer move from chain 1 to next step? नेक्स्ट स्टेप अगर ये इंटरैक्ट करता, नेक्स्ट स्टेप जाते तो हम और लोगों को भी दे सकते हैं वो पार्ट्स. Other companies, Tata and the competitors, Mahindra, they would also start learning new products, improve the quality just like Tesla. If Tesla you think is a good quality. नाम बहुत है बस, product I don't know. Is it clear how this enclave economy? They don't want to share. No company wants to share technology. वो तो जब redundant हो जाएगी और थोड़ा diplomatic means अच्छे करने हैं तो शायद थोड़ी बहुत टेक्नोलॉजी आ जाए. For example, Prime Minister went to US. ये 70% भी, अब वो जब होगा ग्राउंड पे रियलाइज तब पता चलेगा, और वो भी टेक्नोलॉजी यूएस तभी शेयर कर रहा बिकॉज वो सब रिडंडेंट है उनके लिए. दे नॉट शेयरिंग द कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजी विच दे हैव डेवलप्ड, दे विल नेवर डू दैट. दे विल टेक द बेनिफिट्स. दिस इज हाउ दे विल ऑलवेज कीप यू डिपेंडेंट ऑन इंपोर्ट्स. हमसे लेते रहो, बनाना नहीं सिखाएंगे. This is how you create a problem. This is how India is becoming a dumping ground for all the products, be it low technology, high technology. Services sector छोड़ के सारा कुछ import हो रहा है इंडिया में. The duty structure is such that most of the products, the final goods are coming into India. See, most of the products are made in some other country. Make in India bola, but things happen something else, so we'll discuss that also. Is it clear how dependency is created? Write down. Problems of globalization. First, import dependency. Import dependency. Which means no jobs will be created in the domestic economy. Which means no jobs will be created in the domestic economy, as there is no domestic production capacity. Second, here you can mention example of China and all what we are getting imports. $100 billion worth of trade imbalance. Second, any volatility or fluctuation in the global economy. Any volatility or fluctuation in the global economy can expose the domestic economy to these shocks. Expose the domestic economy to these shocks due to the interlinkages created. Due to the interlinkages that have been created. Next, most of the international institutions such as WTO, IMF, are dominated by the developed world. Most of the institutions like WTO, IMF are dominated by the developed world. And the influence of the policies of these bodies compromise the independent decision making of the domestic economy. Compromise the independent decision making of the domestic economy. Next, foreign investments can lead to creation of asset bubbles. Foreign investments can lead to creation of asset bubbles. Which can lead to volatility in the domestic economy. And lead to volatility in the domestic economy. Is it clear how asset bubble will destabilize the economy? increase in the price because of higher demand, but no value increase. And the moment bubble bursts, the whole price is destroyed. Next, ease of flow of finance. Ease of flow of finance creates opportunities for ease of flow of finance creates opportunities for tax evasion, tax avoidance, and money laundering. In this, right, base erosion and profit shifting. Base erosion and profit shifting. In base erosion, profit shifting, right? Firms make profits in one jurisdiction. Firms make profit in one jurisdiction and shift them across borders by exploiting gaps and mismatches in tax rules. Firms make profits in one jurisdiction and shift them across borders by exploiting gaps and mismatches in tax rules to take advantage of lower tax rates, and therefore not paying taxes to the country where profit is made. Is this clear? What is base erosion, profit shifting? Erode the base, shift the profit. Lower tax jurisdictions. Next slide, transfer pricing. These two are the most important techniques. Transfer pricing. Transfer pricing refers to the rules for pricing transactions between enterprises which are under common ownership or control. Between enterprises which are under common ownership or control. Is this clear what transfer pricing means? Related company की जो transactions हैं, उन transactions का price is called as transfer pricing. How this can be used for exploitation is clear. Over invoicing and therefore lesser tax to the jurisdiction where there was higher tax. वहाँ पे tax ना देके वहाँ पे. Is it clear how both of them are used? The problems of globalization. Next, right, liberalization. Privatization is clear, disinvestment and all. Now the concept of globalization. What were the globalization and reform? Just write liberalization, we've already discussed these reforms. Give the heading liberalization. It means allowing the participation of different players in the various sectors of the economy It also includes simplification of policies It also includes simplification of policies so as to facilitate more investments. Also includes simplification of policies so as to facilitate more investments. Is it clear what liberalization means? The various liberalization reforms included. First, industrial sector reform. In this, right, industrial sector reform, delicensing, de-reservation, then liberalization for the financial or the foreign sector, liberalizing foreign investments, you can write liberalizing foreign investments, and reforms in the MRTP Act, which was eventually replaced by Competition Act, in 2002. Next, taxation reforms. Has the PPT been uploaded for 91 reforms? Just go through the content of the reforms. I'll just mention it briefly, just read it. These things will make sense once we discuss these sectors. For example, banking wala, whatever those terms are. So when we discuss those, this will be clear when we discuss those sectors. But have a brief overview. Why it is important? Because UPSC in prelims has been asking questions on chronology of events, has been asking questions on these sectors, what happened when. Even if they're not asking into a range in 1, 2, 3, 4, they're asking statements. For example, coal was nationalized under whom, or statements like this. So you should know the important things, what happened when. So you have to go over those reforms. So taxation reforms included reduction in personal income tax, rationalization of tax slabs, reduction in exemptions, and introducing or bringing services, yes, .com bubble was also asset bubble, वो भी यही था, and bringing services under the tax net. For the first time, India started taxing services in 96. Before that, only taxes were on goods. For the first time, it happened in 96. There were 3 services which were taxed, write down in bracket. Telecommunication service, telecom, brokerage, and non-life insurance. So services were taxed in India for the first time in 96, 97. These 3 services we started with. And now most of the services we have a service tax. Before that, we did not have services under the tax net. It was only goods. Right on, next, financial sector reforms. Which included a reduction in CRR SLR. And SLR. Allowing the banks to set their interest rates. reduction in CRR and SLR, allowing the banks to set the interest rates, giving license to private banks, and also allowing foreign sector banks in India. Is this clear what exactly was happening? 1993, after 1969 when bank nationalization happened, there was another set of nationalization in 1980. 1969 there were 14 banks which were nationalized with more than 50 crore deposits. More than 200 crore deposits were nationalized in 1980. So roughly all of the banking activity was happening in the public sector, government owned. 1993 we distributed 10 license for private banks. So we started liberalizing the private sector in banking by allowing them to set up branches, by allowing them to open banks, and even foreign sector banks were allowed. So liberalizing means allowing the participation by different players and also simplifying the rules for them. It happened across sectors. Now is LPG reforms clear? What was happening? Liberalization, privatization, globalization. And liberalization and globalization had already begun in 1985, but it was relaxation of controls. 91 meant removal of all controls. Most of the controls were removed, liberalization and globalization. Privatization was talked about in India for the first time in 91 only, and the word privatization was not mentioned, it was disinvestment. 20% disinvestment in PSUs, we are going to move out. And this one reform is something which has failed miserably. India has not done a lot of disinvestment. In fact, the public sector activity has only increased, not decreased. There are reasons for that also. We discussed why public sector is required. Yes, question. No, what exactly? This is what we are doing. This is the problem. Dependency in imports means what? See, what exactly is a problem if your country is dependent on imports? Dependency on imports means you don't have domestic manufacturing. The biggest problem is domestic manufacturing is completely absent because they are not able to compete with the imports. Where is Micromax? Lava. These are the two Indian companies, where are they? That means there's no domestic player who's manufacturing, and domestic player is not manufacturing. That means there are no. Also, you are technologically dependent on the outside country. You don't have the technology of your own. That means you're ceding away a lot of diplomatic space also. You will have to listen to them because they are giving you most of the technology. If you have bad relations with them, everything stops. So this is a major problem. Dependency on imports, this is a significant problem for India. This is why we are trying to solve Atmanirbhar. What are we trying to do? And then how do you stop the imports from coming in the country? The most basic thing is, first you will increase the duty. Then you can impose quota restrictions, how much you can import. You can ban some items, you can do. And the third most, which the country should not be doing, is only licensed players. This is significantly increasing the cost of importing in my country. That means I want domestic players, I want jobs, I want technology to be developed in the country itself. The whole idea is this only. Should it be done or not done? This is always a question of policy. You can't say right or wrong. Definitely you can do one thing, that blame the previous governments. But definitely this is a problem. India has a problem of low-end manufacturing. In fact, I'll discuss how 91 reforms were not followed up by further reforms which created further issues. Because once 91 you're opening up to the market, things would have improved in India. Things improved only for one sector, that is services. This is why engineering plus MBA. Why? Because there's only one job. Whatever degree you have, whether you are a history honors or a psychology honors, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to write codes for all of these MNCs. There is no other job. Very less number of jobs, because low-end manufacturing, high-end manufacturing, we don't have plans because everything's coming from outside. Is this clear what is happening in 91? The content. The WTO is not working, right? हमने तो export subsidy भी दिया है, sugar cane की हम appeal भी हार गए, अब वो दे दी हमने 3 साल. The body has to be functional to apply certain sanctions on you. And already if India does this high duty, the other country is also imposing sanctions. वो भी फिर ड्यूटी बढ़ाएंगे अपना for any product which is coming. Retaliatory tariffs which we call. For example, India had for apples, they did not allow our steel to go there. So this is definitely countries will do. So this is not a very smart move. We should have found other ways, but other ways were equally difficult. This is why we had to do this. This has a legit reason, because though technology and the jobs are not created in India, but definitely for the short term, you will face problems. People who are using that, because again, high cost, low quality, because imports are not coming. Is this clear? LPG reforms? We'll discuss the analysis, the good and bad after a break. 91 reforms, what happened, good or bad? See, the analysis of the 91 reforms, we'll discuss both on the external front and the domestic front. Now, what are the positives and the failures on the outside front, external and also the domestic? So first we'll talk about the external sector, that is India's interaction with the rest of the world. What have been the major achievements here? And make a note of this, right with this itself, board itself. I'll not dictate any of this. Now, what are the benefits India has received on the external sector? What are the positives after the 91 reforms? The content of the reforms is clear, what we were doing. Now, what is the benefits we have achieved after 91 on the external sector? What are the benefits achieved? Stable foreign exchange. Before that, one of the things India was very poor at. Now we have significant. What are the goods India exports the most? The highest is petroleum goods. India is largest importer of crude, but exports most of the refined product. India has a significant capacity in refined. Approximately 20% of the export basket of India comprises of petroleum oil lubricants, that is petroleum goods. What else? Steel. Before that, what are the major exports? Engineering goods, pharmaceuticals, gems and jewelry, and also yes, engineering goods is the second. These are the exports which we do. Maximum is petroleum goods, then you have gems and jewelry, engineering. Engineering is second, third is gems and jewelry. Pharmaceutical also. In agriculture, what all goods do we export? The maximum is rice, then marine products. Sugar abhi 2 saal mein hi hua hai last, and sugar the government has now stopped exporting. This year export quotas have not been given because of the production shortages, so sugar export will go down. Otherwise last year ka sugar was also very high. And then there's meat also. What else has been the benefit? Significant export growth. These are goods. Maximum amount of value comes from export of services. India has jobs because of this export of service. What else? What else has been the benefit achieved on the external front? Why does India have significant amount of service growth? After 91, India has seen significant growth in services. Why? One of the reason is because we had up significant investments from outside. Foreign direct investment in some sectors in the Indian economy. MNCs mostly opening up in services. Deloitte, PwC, jitni MNCs hain, everything is coming from outside. So FDI in some sectors, mostly the service sector. This is one of the reasons why service sector has grown in India. What else? Benefit? Per capita. External sector, domestic pe aayenge. How? What has happened because of increase in imports? Easy import means what? Productivity and efficiency in the economy improves. Significant productivity efficiency benefits because of good availability of imports. The production benefits because of imports. What else? India has a significant gap. Technology is this only. Import availability is getting the technology. India is having similar current account deficit, that is more imports over exports like we had in 91. But right now we don't face any problems. Why? Because now our, how much was the forest reserves in 91? 1.1, 1.2. 1.2, and now right now what is the foreign exchange reserve India has? It's nearby 600 billion. So we can control for any volatility that happens in the Indian economy because we have abundant amount of reserves. India's import cover. What was the import cover in 91? Remember import cover? Import cover is how much of your import can be bought with the foreign exchange reserves. We had only 1 week of import cover. That means 1.1 billion was left for 1 week of imports only. Right now, what is the import cover? It's roughly around 9 to 10 months. That means if today we don't have any earning of foreign exchange reserve, for how many months can we buy the imports with our foreign exchange reserves? How much will the import be covered by the foreign exchange reserves if we don't have any earnings? So 600 billion is roughly equivalent to 10 months. This import cover was 1 week in 91 when we had only 1.1, 1.2 billion dollar worth of foreign exchange reserves. The foreign exchange reserves are very important for countering any volatility or fluctuation you have. Remember I discussed one recently, 70 to 80, yeah, this will induce a lot of volatility in the Indian economy. How will we counter this volatility? If your 70 to 80 it is going because supply has reduced, right? This is what we discussed, manage float. What will the RBI do? RBI will increase the supply, bring it to 75. How will RBI increase the supply if RBI does not have? So to counter volatility or any fluctuations, we need to have the cover of foreign exchange reserves to pay for imports so that we don't default. This is why it's important to have foreign exchange reserves. Is it clear how this manages volatility? What else? One is foreign direct investment, that is other countries are investing in India, other companies are investing in India. A lot of opportunities have been made available for Indian companies to invest abroad. This has also significantly happened. This is also called as overseas direct investment. When it is done through India, foreign direct investment is when other countries invest in India. Overseas direct investment is when our companies are investing in the rest of the world. Do we have examples here? Have Indian companies invested somewhere outside? Who? Tata, Jaguar, bought a steel plant also, Chorus. Airtel has a lot of business in African countries, has set up a lot of telecom. A lot of companies have opened up outside. This is an opportunity for them to grow, invest in outside countries. Access to market, this is how. Opportunities for Indian companies, access to market. Joint ventures and all, you can invest outside. Another major benefits which India has received is the amount of, India is the largest receiver of remittances in the world. Where people are going out for work, sending in the dollars. India is the largest receiver of remittances, getting a lot of dollar payment from outside world. So the external sector, we have not only seen a very good growth in exports, which was negligible before 91, across a range of goods. Services is the maximum, but goods also. FDI, certain sectors we have received where we have seen significant growth. Example, services. You can quote a lot of examples of MNCs which have come in India. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, सब लोग वापस आए थे after 91 reforms. Imports availability meant productivity, technology improvement because you have good quality products coming at cheap cost. Abundant foreign exchange reserves to protect from volatility, joint ventures outside and remittances. This is what we have seen after 91. Is it clear? What are the benefits we have seen? Now what are the problems on the external? The benefits are clear? Have you noted down this? Yes. Import cover 10 months. Import cover is an idea which says if you don't earn anything, how much of your foreign exchange reserves can buy imports for? For what time? My import basket is fixed. So till what time can I buy my imports if I'm not earning anything from my foreign exchange? This is called as import cover. Now I have an import cover of 10 months. That means if today I stop earning anything, I will be able to buy all the imports from my foreign exchange for 10 months. In 91, the import cover was only 1 week. That my reserves were so less, I will be able to pay for 1 week. Now I have so much money, I can pay for 10 months. I can buy imports for 10 months with this money, not earning anything. Is it clear what is import cover? Now what are the problems of the external sector? What are the problems India has witnessed? We start with the most basic. What are the problems India is facing because of the brain drain? Okay. Something else before. The biggest problem India has is that India has import dependence. Why does India have import dependence? Why? What is the reason for this? Why did Chinese companies or companies from rest of the world could gain a foothold in India? What is the reason behind it? Why they were not efficient? Lack of capital, not a big problem. Reservation provided to small scale industry. That means roughly 800 goods were made in small scale industry. Who could have competed with the imports? Large scale, they were not allowed to make those products. Also in India, most of the products were being made through PSUs which were not efficient. Remember we discussed the problems of PSUs? These issues meant that India did not have significant production. Anyone coming from outside could have captured the Indian market because most of the goods, even after 91, were being reserved for the small scale industry. Imports coming at a cheap price and a higher quality can only compete with someone who is producing on a large scale, which was not allowed to produce this. Is it clear how import dependence India has? Maximum import dependence is from US के साथ trade surplus है India. Yes, missing middle. India has a missing middle because of this. What else? Labor laws. Both house. We'll come to that also. Domestic problems on the external sector. Right now we discussed globalization, trade deficit, import dependence. No technology has been shared. FDI is only coming in some sectors. We have neglected. FDI kahan hai majorly? It's come in service sector, not in manufacturing. And there also no technology has been shared, no significant share of technology. What else? Right now we discuss the problems of globalization. What are the problems of globalization? India faced problems because of two issues. 1967 when there was aid that was stopped. 1973 when there was an oil crisis. Now volatility has increased. Globalization. 97 Asian financial crisis, India faced a very significant problem. 2008 global financial crisis. Now pandemic. So a lot of volatility can be induced in the Indian economy. Right now also, if imports are increasing, any volatility in the outside market, you have problems in India. Volatility has increased because of increased interdependence and integration of the Indian economy with the world economy. Is it clear? The moment pandemic hit, the first problem was the shortage of semiconductor chips. You had problem that your car waiting time period was more than 1 year. Basic chips भी available नहीं थी. कार में लग रही हैं वो chips. That means this interdependence on the outside world. Your volatility will increase multiple times. What else? Tax evasion and tax avoidance. Everybody has a Swiss account. Taking money outside. The Swiss account तो फिर भी accountable है. जो नहीं पता वो भी बहुत accounts हैं जो Panama papers, Paradise papers हैं कि इन लोगों के पैसे यहाँ भी है. So that means Indian government is losing out on a lot of taxes. Tax evasion and tax avoidance is happening. What else? What is that? PABAD optional. है ना? What is that? वो domestic problem करेंगे बात. Do you understand the problems on the external front? India does not get a lot of technology, import hai, volatility. All of the globalization problems you can mention here. You can also talk about decision making. Policy being decided by where India does not have decision making powers. So a lot of space has been ceded, but still India tries to control this domain. Less of a problem, more problem is this. Is it clear? We can also talk about a large problem, that is resource exploitation. Domestic में ही बात कर सकता है. Climate change and all, resource exploitation happening through the foreign players, pollution and climate change related impacts. Is it clear what are the problems on the external front? Now what are the benefits in the domestic front? ये अभी discuss किया all of this. When we discuss problems of globalization, this is what we discussed. In this you can also write one more point. Problems of the outside economy, remittances कहाँ से आ रहे हैं? Because people are. Now this is a very big problem and government is not able to find a solution. Most of the people are getting subsidized education in public institutes, highly subsidized, and no benefits to the country. Everyone's going out to work. Prime Minister भी बन रहा है कहीं पे. So most of the companies you see people of Indian origin, यहाँ नहीं है, India में नहीं है. This is a very significant problem. India is imparting all the skills but not getting anything in return. People are going out for better opportunities. So this is also a significant problem. We tried to control this problem, brain drain, earlier. How? Under the FERA rules, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, you could only take $500 outside India. Now the limit is 2.5 lakh. So it's easier to go outside India. Earlier when the limit was $500, that means it was very difficult to go out. This problem was largely contained. But now in an interdependent economy, you are making it easier for people to move. And if it is easier, given the opportunity, people are going out. That means we are not getting the benefits in the domestic economy. This is one of the problems of the 91 reforms. Is it clear? Now domestic sector. What are the issues or benefits in the domestic economy? What? How? So why did you talk about banking? हाँ तो वो कैसे होगा? We have controlled the foreign sector activity in banking. क्या हो सकता है क्या नहीं? Domestic sector, what are the benefits? Choice maximization. Before that, we have got a lot of, for roughly 25 years, we have got a growth of 7 to 8%. Roughly on an average 7% growth till 2018. India was growing up to 7% on an average from 91. So we have got significant growth during this time period. Now why this growth is better than what we were getting in the era before 91? 1980 to 90 was also, we were getting a lot of growth, 5.7 in 6 5-year plan, then 6%. Why this growth is not considered as to be good? What? Not base effect. Growth तो यहाँ भी आ रही थी. Where we saying 91 reforms के बाद the growth has been better. The problem was that this growth was on back of borrowings which we did not have. This is stable growth, this is no stability. This was momentarily we were getting growth because we were borrowing a lot from different parts. Now this is a stable growth where borrowing is also contained. And roughly for 25 years. And the moment we have stable growth, standard of living of people has increased significantly. Income levels have increased significantly in the country because of the stable growth. Jobs that have been created mostly in the service sector. Also because imports are available and the domestic production capacity is also improving, that means you have easy availability of goods and services, choice for consumers. Basic goods, we had a waiting time period of 10 years, 5 years. We had so much of smuggling and black markets. Everything is now eliminated. We don't have smuggling or black marketing because everything is available in the market. You have choice for the consumer. You can avail various different products, get them imported, take it from the domestic economy. Everything is available easily, which was not the case before 91. So significant improvement in standard of living, stable growth. And when your stable growth was 7 to 8%, we had also had significant amount of poverty alleviation. 91, 92, roughly the poverty numbers in India were 45%. And the latest numbers which the government follows, 2011, we have poverty of 21%. 45% was the poverty in 1993. And now we have roughly half that poverty levels despite increase in population because of the stable growth we have received, because of the increased standard of living of the people. What else has been the benefits? Social sector schemes, or we can say largely the tax revenue collected by the government has increased significantly. Because your economic activity is increasing, economic activity, both corporate tax and personal income tax, they are significantly improving. That means government has a lot of finances to deliver these services to the people. Whether they are delivering it or not, that is a separate question. But availability of government revenue has significantly increased both for center and state because of the improved growth prospect of the Indian economy. So we have good resource availability, we have poverty alleviation, standard of living is improving, and also government tax collection has improved. The government has more money to deliver goods and services to the people. Whether it is delivering, that's a separate question. Because that's a problem. 91 se pehle, the complaint was there were no resources. Now you have significant tax money, then how exactly the level of service delivery to the people is degrading, not improving? Is it clear the benefits on the domestic front? Now what are the problems? What are the problems or the issues created in the domestic economy after 91? Broader issue. What are the problems or issues? This is why, and why the issues we'll also discuss. But first, what are the problems? The benefits are clear. And reason for getting these benefits are clear. External sector ke benefits are clear and reason for getting the problems are clear. Now, what are the problems in the domestic sector and why do we have these problems? Inequality, before inequality. And why do we have inequality? Jobless growth, why? The question is, when India opened up for the outside sector, why do we call that India's model of growth has been jobless growth? What is the reason for this? Huh? Machine based. What machine based? Why did we not have jobs? We opened up for everyone. Why there were no jobs? Lesser skill. Okay. First basic thing was that the 91 reforms, whatever we discussed, did it talk about agriculture? None of the reforms touched agriculture, and we discussed how APMC mandis created a very big problem for agriculture marketing. APMC mandis, the government tried to liberalize with the farm laws in 2020. In 91, the whole market was regulated strictly by the APMC. That means there was no participation of the private sector. Liberalization could have brought in benefits to the agriculture field, but there were no reforms done in agriculture. So there was a complete neglect of agriculture. That means the sector which was employing most of the workforce was completely neglected. This is one of the reasons why you had no development or growth here, no better job creation happening in agriculture. Now the second thing here was, what happened to the Indian industry? Why did Indian industry not grow? 13 to 14, in fact 16% was contribution of manufacturing to GDP in 91. And this is the manufacturing contribution to GDP till date. In fact, now it is falling to 13 to 14%. The manufacturing contribution to GDP. Why this is happening? And this phenomena after 91, by a lot of economic scholars, have been mentioned as premature deindustrialization. Now what is this? I'll dictate premature deindustrialization, reasons for industrial growth. This you'll write. Premature deindustrialization meant, the idea was that in an economy, people move out from agriculture to industry to services. Why do people move out like that? The idea is, if I plot the population is to GDP ka curve, if the GDP of the country increases, agriculture is going to see this. For manufacturing, the population to GDP, if I draw, it is going to see an inverted U. Why? Because in manufacturing also, beyond a point, you cannot increase technology. For example, textile sector, अगर वो maximum technology है, उसमें labor ज़्यादा है, उसकी wage बढ़ गई, then it population will fall. It will not go into the textile or the manufacturing sector. And the same for services is this. Maximum amount of productivity benefits. Agriculture में population कम होगी जैसे GDP बढ़ेगी. Manufacturing, it will increase because all of those people will be employed, but beyond a point, manufacturing will not be able to employ, it will decrease because technology cannot change up beyond a point. Example, textile in China. Textile in China, maximum amount of manufacturing, low cheap labor. That means it has reached this point. Now labor ka cost is increasing, so people will have to move out. People will have to move out. Where will people go? Services, because unlimited productivity benefits. This is how structural transformation happens. This is agriculture, this is industry, and this is services. What has happened in India is, this is the normal curve. In India, this has happened like this. That at a very low level of wage and a low amount of population, both ways India has not gained anything, and people are moving out of manufacturing and going back to agriculture. India has seen premature deindustrialization. See, why did people move out of textile in China? Because their wages were increased significantly. Then only they moved to other sectors. India mein already they started moving sectors without getting that wage. First, we did not create that population absorption, and secondly, किस wage पे जो लोग निकलने लगे वो भी बहुत कम है. This phenomena has been referred by a lot of scholars as premature deindustrialization, that we have not reached the maximum and we are now deindustrializing. The level of population absorbed is less, and at the level of wage which they are moving out is also very low. Now, why has this happened? And most of the India's growth is coming from service sector, where the percentage employment is significantly less. Why? Because this sector is highly skill and capital intensive. You use machines and you use human skill. Capital, human capital, and the physical capital is what gives you, technology is what gives you the maximum benefits here. But you can't employ a lot of people because of the skill issue. यहाँ से यहाँ शिफ्ट होंगे. अब वो यहाँ नहीं आ रहे, वो वापस एग्रीकल्चर में है. एग्रीकल्चर एम्प्लॉयमेंट इज अगेन इंक्रीजिंग. दिस शुड हैव डिक्रीज्ड. व्हाई इज दिस हैपनिंग इन इंडिया? दो आफ्टर 91 रिफॉर्म्स वी ट्राइड टू सॉल्व दिस प्रॉब्लम, but still it did not happen. We made a shift right from here to here. Now what was the problem in Indian industry? Huh? तो यहाँ क्यों नहीं आ रहा FDI? Why is FDI going to China and not to India? Cheap labor इंडिया में नहीं है, cheapest labor है. Cheap नहीं है. It's no longer ER, it is EST last. Why not? See, there are various reasons for this premature deindustrialization. See, manufacturing will get a benefits. Most of the manufacturing industry, not high-end manufacturing, low-end manufacturing, the machines are already developed. Then what are the benefits people are going to have? That they're going to start an industry at your place. For example, textile mein, the machines are already developed. China, Vietnam and India are going to have the same machines. Then why people are going to China and Vietnam, not in India? In low-end manufacturing, why do companies not shift to India and shift to other countries? Yes, the biggest problem, once your machines are set, see, production is a function of labor and capital. Now the problem would be, what exactly is the skill level of labor? What exactly is your labor laws? And second is, what exactly is your logistics condition? This is a very big problem in India. The level of infrastructure creation that has happened in the country, this is quite substandard. Both in terms of infrastructure, for example, textile movement itself, infrastructure can be done through road, rail and water. Now most of the countries move this type of a transport, use rail and water together. Why? Because it can move higher volumes at lesser cost. Plus it is more environmentally safe also to move like this. In India, 70% of the good movement happens through roads. In India, the problem with rail and water is so significant because rail ka infrastructure is already giving most of the benefits to the domestic travelers. It doesn't give preference to freight, it gives preference to passenger. Also, since we subsidize passenger, remember the discussion on PSUs? We sell the passenger tickets at a lesser cost, then how is railway going to get the benefits? They are going to charge higher on freight. You are charging, this is called as cross subsidy. You charge, if you had to charge 40 rupees as a ticket to passenger, you are taking 5 rupees. So where is the next 35 going to come? You add 35 in freight. This is called as cross subsidization. You take one from one sector and cross subsidize the other sector. Charge more here and charge less here. That means freight movement is not getting the priority. The level of quality is bad. but cost is high. This means people will not move through rail but move through road. Logistics costs in India come out to be around 13 to 14% of GDP. This is significantly high. China has roughly 7 to 8% of its GDP as the logistic cost, 6 to 7% most of the European economies and US. So significant cost difference occurs only in travel, moving the goods from point A to point B. Movement, if you do it from road is not just that you will have more cost, you will have problem of safety. There have been numerous complaints by the industrial players that half of their goods gets destroyed on the road itself. Various reports on this. Someone making light bulbs for refrigerators, he said 50% of the bulbs are destroyed in the travel itself because of the level of quality of roads you have, the poor facility of rail. Water transport is absent in India, very negligible because of the flow of water and other related infrastructure. This requires a lot of money which we have not invested. Rail should be the maximum, but there the level of service is so poor, the cost is high. Maximum amount of good transport happens through road. And it's not just about traveling, it's also about the storage. The warehousing is the other problem in logistics, because most of the warehousing that exists in India is not at all organized. It is informal, unorganized, where very less amount of machines are used and manual labor is used. They are not using proper storage techniques where you would have skilled people managing the whole storehouse, and the whole activity is informal. You jitne transporter, travelers, everything is informal. That means to improve the technology, to hire more skilled labor, they will require money which they can't get because of the informal activity. So the problem is not just this, the problem is this only. In fact, you can see this in good movement through Amazon. Amazon tries to sell its premium product, that is Prime. What is the feature of Prime? How many products it is able to deliver in one day? Only very handful of products, only in the larger cities where it can promise one day. In US, most of the goods it is delivering in one day because logistics and storage is proper. यहाँ पे Amazon को Prime में delivery के साथ Prime video भी देना पड़ता है. Prime Music भी कह रहा सुन लो गाने. It has to bundle a lot of services together because it faces a lot of problem in logistics. Consider this is the cost advantage. Textile या low-end manufacturing, किसी भी manufacturing में, if machines are already developed, you can only develop on storage and transportation cost, which is quite high in India. And the biggest problem apart from movement in this infrastructure issue itself is the power sector. The availability of power. Now power sector faces a lot of problems. Most of the power for residential sector, domestic, and even your agriculture sector, most of their power is free. 200 unit free. Everybody is giving. Who is going to pay for it? Yes, you have again cross subsidization, you pay more to the industry. And if the government doesn't pay for the subsidy amount, you are going to have power outages, load shedding. Load shedding agar hogi, pehle yahan hogi. Load shedding mostly happen in. That means you give them high price power and with very poor quality. That means everyone has to install a power backup. Power backup means more cost, not just in installation, but in running also. Diesel, it comes for a price. Generator is quite significant. In fact, Luminous, what does Luminous build? Battery infrastructure, inverter. Inverter is a concept not heard of in US. Inverter concept India ka hai. Because of the power outages, because of how power mein governance kaise ho raha hai, we have a concept power backup. India does not have shortage of electricity. India has generation capacity of more than 420 gigawatts. Peak demand India में 2010 से ज़्यादा नहीं है. 210 gigawatt was the peak demand last year. 2003 gigawatt to be precise. That means we only require half of what the capacity we have. The governance structure in power is so bad that the quality is not received. It's not very difficult. It's not rocket science to get power. 24/7 power is very easy to get. Coal produced power is very easy to get. And now if a company faces significant amount in power and faces significant amount of logistics, uski sari cost advantage khatam. There's no efficiency. There have been a lot of complaints where power availability. Recently in a conclave, one of the industrialists said that Tamil Nadu government, which says that it delivers good power, it's an industrial hub, had so much problems of power that the person had to shift his plant. You know where he shifted? Tamil Nadu mein he complained of power availability. He said, I'm going to shift my plant, and he shifted to somewhere else. Where would he shift? Gujarat, no. Gujarat is already Mars. हम बहुत ऊपर हैं, तुम अपना देखो. United States of America. Its problem is not a unique, power is not a problem with any one state. It's a problem for all states, the availability. Because of the problems in DISCOM, how the governance structure in power has been created. And if these basic services itself you're not able to provide, logistics plus power is something you're not able to provide, the cost benefits of low-end manufacturing are completely absent. Therefore, there's no benefit of producing in India. It's not about the technology, it's not about skill power. The skill will talk about skill also, but major problem is आपका support infrastructure बहुत weak है. This is quite high. And if most of it is moving through road, it's not safe, it's polluting, it's high cost. Time कितना लगता है? Just witness the larger trucks that are moving around the city. Nagaland के trucks. This is what is happening because most of the logistic movements happens through road. Cars भी move हो रही है road से, it's not moving through rail or water. These are cheap, can move more volume, time saving. This is very time consuming and not at all safe. If so many road accidents also in India. So infrastructure plus the logistics plus power, one of the biggest problems. Then what else could be the problem? How? Excessive bureaucracy. Why bureaucracy? Bureaucracy का role तो खत्म हो गया. Bureaucracy, do we have a role of bureaucracy in our industrialization? How? How did the role of the state change? What is the role of the state before 91? Before 91, the state was a provider and also a regulator. After 91, what was the role of the state? Only a. Why? Because regulation function had to be given to independent sector regulators. This is what the idea was. This is the major problem. That regulation activity has not been improved after 91. The state had to facilitate by creating infrastructure, by providing skill, providing health to the people. And had to improve the regulation by setting up independent sector regulators. This function has not happened. After 91, whenever your business starts, the business entry barriers were removed in 91. No licensing, no reservation, ease of investment. But this is not the only thing. Throughout the life cycle of a business, you need certain regulations. For example, you will need building permits. This is one of the biggest problems in India. You need building permits, and before building permits, you need land. Then you have taxation policy. You have labor laws. The availability of judiciary, contract enforcement. That means throughout a life cycle, business has a lot of interaction with the state because there is regulation. Regulation और ये state ने नहीं करना था, ये करना था independent sector regulators ने. They had to set the policy, consider another environmental clearance. And then once you enter, you also need a plan for exit. IBC, the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, has come in 2016. Before that, it was very difficult for the industrial players to exit the market. And nobody is going to enter a market from where they can't exit. So if your regulation is missing, this does not have a policy. Consider why this bulldozer action has been justified. Keeping the moral ethical values apart, why this action is not illegal. What is the reason? Why it's Supreme Court has already given a judgment on this, that this is a municipal action and we are not going to interfere in this. It is nothing illegal. Why is this action legal? Keeping the moral ethical के होना चाहिए नहीं, वो political अलग है. Why? They have encroached, not just encroachment. Once you have land, your own land, उस पे construction करने के लिए you need building permits. And building permits have to happen according to the municipality bylaws. Building के construction के laws हैं. You have to get the map passed. You have to take the completion certificate whether you had constructed as per the map or not. These are the building bylaws in the country. Most of the people do not follow these laws. This is why the bulldozer action has been justified. And when you don't follow the laws, that means it was not as per the map. आपका land कोई encroach नहीं कर रहा है. But building के लिए आपके पास bylaws you have to whatever the municipality has, कि कितना construct करते हो, कितनी जगह छोड़नी है, कितने floors हो सकते हैं. There are complete laws with respect to how much floor space you can use. Not just for residential, for industry also, what they can construct. Now this building permit, if you don't follow, that means most of the construction that has been done is illegal. And if the construction is illegal, now there's a due process after it. The construction is illegal, the municipal organization will send you a notice. The first notice comes that you correct this construction, you show us the map and make it as per the map, or this structure will be demolished. Then the second notice they give is, demolish hoga, aap khud demolish karoge, and if you don't demolish it, we are going to come and take the cost of demolition from you. This is why, because you have not followed the rules. Now this is a legal process. But why do people violate these rules? Because whatever these rules are, with respect to building permits, these have not been updated as per the times. These are very old rules, archaic rules which have not been updated. So everyone, most of the people, more than 90% will be in violation of these building permits. Supreme Court ordered the demolition of the 2 Supertech towers because it was a violation of the building permit. A lot of commentary was made on that demolition कि हम उसको कुछ और के लिए use क्यों नहीं कर रहे? The structure has already been created, why not use for some other purpose? Why not levy a fine? Why demolish the whole structure? The rationale behind this is, if we allow doing this, everybody is going to do this and then say, fine laga do ya kuch aur. So building permits or rules have to be followed. You have to have a map, you have to take clearance of the map, then completion clearance. Rules have not been updated. This is why most of the people are in violation of these rules, and this is why the municipality authorities are in complete right to destroy that structure. Now when first land acquisition is a problem, we'll discuss this also in land reforms. Getting the land comes at a high cost. Building permits may you have interface with the municipality. Taxation may the taxation rules are not clear. You can have income tax ka, ED, a lot of things, money laundering and all. Plus environmental clearances. This is also a very big problem. So if your business doing is difficult in India, why will someone invest in industry? And compare this with services. When you start a service firm, all of these are minimal. Aapka regulation will be minimal because you are not producing any good. Production of good will have more interface with the state in terms of regulation. Service sector ka regulation nahi hoga. Service sector ko bahut kam built up area chahiye. They only need people to sit. They don't need production activity, they don't need vast amount of land. So their interaction with the regulatory state is quite less. But industry, it is very high. Till now, we have not got the solutions for these. This is why entry barrier hatane se kya hoga if regulation has, the ease of doing business is absent. And in all these rules, if there is discretion, that on some players, you give the approval, for some players, you stop the approval. That means you will have no competition. So this is why 91 reforms were incomplete. Why? Because 91 reforms just opened up the sector, did not follow up with improving the business climate. And this is where this business climate or logistics was less required. This is the sector of services. People opened or invested more in service sector, financial sector, and did not invest more in production activity. Because production activity required cost margins on logistics, production activity required a stable policy by the government on the business front. This was absent. This is why it is said 91 reforms were only first generation reforms. The second generation reforms, that the state role of regulator facilitator was absent. We did not reform any of this. तो state यहाँ से तो absent हुआ कि entry barrier हटा दिया, but यहाँ पे control है अभी भी. All of this, be it taxation, be it labor laws, be it getting credit, getting contract enforcement. If two corporates fight in India, what exactly is the solution? It is the judiciary. And judiciary is already clogged with cases. So if there's no contract enforcement happening in your country, why will someone invest? If there's no exit. Exit laws were introduced in 2016 with IBC. Before that, for 25 years, you don't have an exit law. So this second generation reform is missing, that is the activity of regulation. Independent sector regulators को power नहीं दी, state ने power खुद रखी अपने पास, where they did not give a stable policy. And this is why nobody invested. We tried reforming the regulation through the national manufacturing policy, Make in India, and now Atmanirbhar Bharat, but we have not been very successful because state is reluctant to cede control. And if they're not ceding control, they're not making this function neutral, you will not have competition. वही होगा कि airport का policy was that if you don't have any experience, you will not be getting airports. Next day the policy was changed. The third day 6 airports were given to one player. So if your policy keeps on changing like this, you will not have investment. Consider this also includes the import-export policy. So if laptops or any other product import-export, there are certain restrictions how exactly someone is going to do business. Rice pe government has put a ban on export. So many shipments are now standing on ports. Those traders in rice, why will they participate in the market when you can have any amount of regulation? The government regulations in the business sector is quite high. This is why people will not invest. Services में ये सब कम चाहिए, इसलिए people have invested in services in India. Is it clear how 91 reforms were incomplete? Then another problem you can talk about why industrialization has not happened in India is the factor market rigidity. Now what is this factor market rigidity? What are the factors of production? First, land availability is a problem, acquisition is a huge problem in India. Then labor, what's the problem with labor? Not labor, skill or labor, quality. 48% of the engineers are employable. That means what next 52% are going to do. Rest of the fields only employability. Graduates की employability is I think 20 to 25% only. 18% graduate employability. 82% कहाँ से लाए वो degree? And what are they going to do with the degree? So the skill and the quality of the labor is a problem. And the problem with this is compiled. The people who don't have skill don't get the jobs and people who have the skill don't stay in India. There are two problems because आपका ये structure ऐसा है. Nobody wants to start up business in India, they want to start up somewhere else or they want to work in bigger MNCs outside. So that means the skilled labor is leaving India and the poor quality labor is there in India which we are not able to improve. So factor market rigidity, this is why industrialization remains a problem. Then what else is the factor market? Capital. What's the problem with capital availability? And this has happened mostly in the last 5 years. Capital mostly comes from banks or NBFC. Now why banks or NBFCs? Because companies should be mostly taking up the capital from the capital markets, financial markets, that is stock market and the stock markets and also the bond market. Corporates should be issuing bonds, issuing shares and raise money. They should not be taking money from banks and NBFCs. Now the problem first, what is the problem of taking money from banks and NBFCs? Banks, India since has significant amount of inflation, that means interest rates in India would always be on a higher end. Interest rates are on the higher end, that means the cost of borrowing from banks and NBFCs is quite high. Second problem here is, in industry or infrastructure, do you need money for the longer run, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Industry investment, would it require a loan for longer terms? Say 10-year duration? But banks, whatever deposits they get, what is the duration of the deposits? Most of the bank deposits are saving deposits, not fixed deposits. What exactly is the time limit? Maximum 1 to 3, जब fixed ही नहीं है तो कभी भी पैसे निकाल सकता है. Now bank is getting money for 1 to 3 years, but is giving money for, this is called as the asset liability mismatch. Bank ka asset is loan, bank ka liability is deposit. So money is coming for 3 years, 1 year, and loan has to begin for longer duration. That means banks face a problem of asset liability mismatch. They should not be giving a lot of credit to industry. Credit should come from capital market, that is bonds and shares. Now the problem with capital market in India is that capital markets in India are not well developed. Retail investors don't understand the concept of capital market, so therefore there is very less interest shown by people in investment of bonds and shares. Right in 1992, India saw one of the biggest scam in the capital markets. Since then, there have been numerous scams in the capital market. The level of development of capital market has been very poor in India. That means either you borrow from banks or you borrow from outside India. And in India, most of the corporates are taking money outside. Problem with taking money outside is if the dollar rupee movement changes, you will have to pay high. There's high volatility. The availability of credit in most of the markets comes from here. But in India, it is not developed. 2021, there was a crisis in this. The National Stock Exchange, the chairman, do you know what the scam was? She used to get emails from God. No one has heard the story. National Stock Exchange ka chairman, the lady used to get emails from God. And she was taking a lot of decisions based on what God was telling her through email. तो उनसे इन्वेस्टिगेशन में पूछा कि अगर गॉड ईमेल भेज रहा था तो इंटरनेट कनेक्शन कैसे आया? हिमालय में जो बैठा था वो कहाँ से where was the internet? Said, and you know, she replied to this that spiritual powers don't need internet to connect. So direct बता देता ना. And the God man was his junior. He was the one who's doing the whole scam. The junior got appointed, so the messages were, isko appoint karo, iski salary badhao. So she was doing all the steps taken by this. This is the National Stock Exchange, the chairman of the National Stock Exchange, in 2021 speaking to a God man through internet. So you can consider the development of capital market in India. Why people don't have trust in bonds and shares. This is why people have to be taken money from outside. And if you take money from outside, you have a problem of dollars. Dollars की volatility, dollars की availability problem नहीं है, volatility is the problem. Then what is the fourth factor of entrepreneurship or factor of production is this. What is the problem of entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is the skill to do business. People don't have the skill to do business in India. है, फिर क्या problem है? Support infrastructure, anything else? High risk. See, the biggest problem is in India, what the structure of industry has become, either you have large players or you have small players. We have a missing middle. This is a problem today also. Now, if you have a missing middle, it's very difficult to compete with them directly. Even having the entrepreneurship skills, you need the experience to grow on scale. Now, this scale itself, it's very difficult to grow because of the regulatory policy and the lack of availability of labor and capital. अगर ये दोनों चीजें नहीं मिलेंगी, to small scale industry also, and regulatory capacity is missing, it's very difficult to grow in scale. And if it's difficult to grow in scale, you will not be able to compete with them. This is why you will find the biggest players in the market are going to capture everything small. Reliance Industries will buy all of the players in the small sector because it has the capacity to do so. They don't have the capacity to compete with them. Flipkart started competing with Amazon. This is a competition which can never happen. Flipkart sold most of its business to, they have exited, the founders have exited the market. Walmart is now competing with Amazon. Because the level of scale is missing that you don't have experience how to manage companies. Most of the startups you see, there was a lot of fanfare for the Indian में startups हो गए, इतने unicorns आ गए. Where are those startups now? None of them is profitable. They're not even thinking about profit. और अपने cost वापस भी नहीं ला पा रहे. This is the entrepreneurship. Because you've never practiced that business on a scale. Mostly large players are doing it. So entrepreneurship skills also limited because of the supporting or surrounding environment which we are missing in the country. This is the reason why entrepreneurship skill, missing middle, further accentuates the problem. This is our factor market rigidity. Is it clear how industry is not working in India? पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे for industry? And in fact, last 10 years में banks and NBFCs have seen a lot of NPAs. They're not lending. In fact, newspapers have started reporting that how people are taking money from informal money lenders because banks are not lending. If banks are not lending because of the NPA problem, from where are you going to get the money? 2017, the biggest NBFC in the country, ILFS, saw a crisis. After that, banks and NBFCs both have seen a problem. They're not lending. So from where are you going to take? Ideal have capital markets, shares and bonds. Do you see people investing in shares and bonds in India? Very less. Because there's no trust, there's no instrument. People don't understand the market. Mutual fund after 2017-18 has created a lot of interest. But before that, people are not investing in capital markets. And if people are not investing in capital markets, corporates को पैसा कैसे मिलेगा? They are going. India's most of the external debt is external commercial borrowing. Most of the is external commercial borrowing only because Indian market doesn't give a lot of capital. And this has a problem of volatility. Hedging चाहिए होती है इसमें. Is this clear how this is functioning, labor factor or the factor market rigidity? Forget that, not benefit. How does the bank function? Bank takes in and gives out loans. This is the function of a bank. Loan उसका asset है और ये उसकी liability है. अब deposit जो लोग कर रहे हैं बैंक में, they are depositing money for what duration? Are people doing a lot of FDs? It's mostly current account or a saving account. That means bank get money maximum in the duration of 1 to 3 years because people are repeatedly taking out the money. So what I get is for this amount, but if I have to give industry, loan to industry or even infrastructure, loan amount would be for what years? पैसा देना है 10 साल के लिए, पैसा मिल रहा है 1 साल के लिए. This is called as an asset liability mismatch. Banks should not be doing loans which are longer duration. Banks should be doing short loans only because their deposits are not long duration. This is why corporates or infrastructure should take money from capital market. How? Whenever you issue a bond, you will issue a bond for 5 year, 10 year, 15 year. Or when you issue shares, it's not a debt, you are giving ownership. इससे पैसा मिलना चाहिए, but people don't invest here because of the poor development of the market. So if this route is compromised, this is not present, I will only have to borrow from outside. External commercial borrowing. Maximum amount of India's external debt is external commercial borrowing. इसके साथ प्रॉब्लम है कि डॉलर में मिलेंगे पैसे, volatile. Asset liability mismatch. Is it clear? What are the market rigidities? Chitra Ramakrishna. The name was Chitra Ramakrishna. She was talking to God directly on Gmail. Dear sir, regards. Factor market rigidity is clear. Now one problem which has happened in India in the last 5 to 6 years, this is your demand side problem. In fact, demand side problem we'll discuss later. Are these factors clear why India did not see industrialization? Now coming back to 91. Now do you have the answer for jobless growth? Agriculture we discussed in detail. Now industry you have the answer why India did not have. Now why service sector growth? What is the reason for growth in service sector? Write down this question. What are the reasons for growth of service sector industry in India? What are the reasons for growth of service sector industry in India? Post the 91 reforms. Post the 91 reforms. Write down another. This question, which I'm going to degrade now, this was asked 2022 in UPSC for 15 marks. Economic growth in the recent past. Economic growth in the recent past has been led by economic growth in the recent past has been led by an increase in labor productivity. Economic growth in the recent past has been led by an increase in labor productivity. Explain this statement. Suggest the growth pattern. Explain this statement, then suggest the growth pattern that will lead to creation of more jobs, that would lead to creation of more jobs without compromising labor productivity. Suggest a growth pattern that will lead to creation of more jobs without compromising labor productivity. This is UPSC 2022, 15 marks. And do you understand what the question is saying? Read it again. Economic growth in India is coming from labor productivity. That means it's coming from services. Next. Suggest the, what would you suggest here? Huh? Industry, but what? 15 marks में लिखना है. It's not चाय पे चर्चा. Question is asking challenges. Has the question anywhere mentioned that industry is not growing? Question is mentioning that service is growing. You need to tell me that. You, in the first part of the question, you have to tell me how growth is coming. So you have to give me facts on services, what all services, and why services in brief. Why services in brief? Because the question is saying economic growth in the recent past has come from labor productivity. Labor productivity is labor skill. That is services. So you need to explain, that means you need to give me reasons why this has happened. Right? You give me facts in the introduction, you give me reasons why this has happened. And when you write reasons why this has happened, we have discussed why industry did not happen. We have not discussed why services happened. These are two different things. Why industry did not happen, we discussed this. Why services happened, we have not discussed this. You have to write here why services happened. So that you'll have to think about. This is one question which previous question is the same. Why services happened? And how in the recent past only services. Now the second part. Suggest growth. Now if you have to suggest the growth pattern, what suggestions would you give? Which sector should you go where you will have both labor jobs without compromising labor productivity? Manufacturing, what sectors? Manufacturing, be specific. In manufacturing, what all sectors will create jobs? Talk about the labor intensive sectors. Now what are the labor intensive sectors in India? Textile, labor intensive agriculture will compromise productivity. Question is saying growth without compromising productivity. Agriculture is compromise of productivity. You can't have labor beyond a point. Remember agriculture discussion. It's a low productivity sector, it cannot create jobs. You have to shift. This is how it moves. यही स्ट्रक्चरल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है. यहाँ से यहाँ ही जाएंगे. जब तक वेज नहीं इंप्रूव होती तब तक वो यहीं होंगे. Which sectors are giving you this? One is textile. Textile and apparel industry, where you can employ a lot of jobs without having a lot of skill. It is not compromising productivity, more jobs. What else? Food processing sector, 2. Third. In fact, how is China or Taiwan, China or Vietnam right now growing? What exactly are they making? Before electronics. Low-end electronics is later. वो तो बहुत कैपिटल इंटेंसिव है. चाइना कहाँ से ग्रो कर रहा है? चाइना क्या भेजता है इंडिया में? आसपास देखो अपने, चाइना क्या भेज रहा है? China is sending what? Textiles, China, Bangladesh, Vietnam. Textiles, footwear. Everything's made in China. Toy. The Prime Minister has mentioned so much, make the toys in India. Most of the toys, the smaller end, are everything's coming from China. This is labor intensive. Food processing industry is labor intensive. All of these sectors don't require a lot of machines, don't require a lot of skill. These 4 sectors are going to create the maximum jobs. Right now, see, India is doing export of what good? India is doing petroleum, gems, jewelry, engineering and pharma. In चारों में से कौन सा job create कर रहा है? None of them is job creating. You have to create jobs in sector where you can export. These are 4 things you can export also, which creates a lot of jobs without compromising your labor productivity. And then you move on to the higher end of manufacturing. But you start with the lower end of manufacturing. This is why we'll discuss PLI is a problem, because PLI may 10 out of the 13-14 sectors they have selected, out of those 10 to 11 sectors are mostly capital intensive, not labor intensive. So jobs kahan se aayenge? These are the sectors you have to focus on. Then you have to talk about how the government is also focusing on what apart from this. Skilling education for what? Self-employment. Self-employment is the second. First you have to talk about the manufacturing jobs. Also you have to talk about self-employment, how various things. Self-employment ko baaki services mein bhi start ho sakta hai. Low-end services you can start. So a lot of things can happen in low-end services and manufacturing where you will give the jobs and also not compromise productivity. Is it clear what the question is? See, UPSC, the first part, growth and related concepts in mains, has always asked questions centered around this. कि India का growth pattern रहा कैसा है and what exactly are the problems. So you get the statement. You talked about the growth strategy in brief, broadly. Questions would always be specific like this. They'll use difficult language. First line if you read, it's confusing. Economic growth has come from labor productivity. The same question they asked in 2014, they put it very plainly that India has a model of growth which is called by some people as jobless growth. Do you agree with the statement? अब वो easy to understand है. Economic growth, productivity, labor, jobs. This is slightly difficult. The thing is the same. The thing is broadly centered around the India's growth pattern. And when you talk about India's growth pattern, you talk about all three: agriculture, industry, and services. Why agriculture? Why did not some things happen? Why industry? Why things did not happen? Why services? Why things happened? Because growth is coming from services. Is it clear how you have to tackle these type of questions? And newspaper, keep on reading, you will find a lot of strategies mentioned by people how to grow jobs. This is where you'll write the examples. You're not going to write a good answer on this if you're not reading the newspaper. Broadly, सबको पता है क्या हो रहा है, but figures और यहाँ value addition. Out of 14, 4 marker you can write right now also. How do you get 7, 7.5 in a question which you already know it is going to come? You have to add it from whatever happening in the current affairs. Is it clear? Why premature deindustrialization? In fact, you can write down premature deindustrialization right now itself. You can draw this diagram. This is structural transformation. This is structural transformation. This is agriculture. This is industry. This is services. And this is the Indian case. This is India. Premature deindustrialization at a lesser population and at a lesser income level, we are deindustrializing. And in a lot of scholars, if they don't agree with this deindustrialization, but one consensus is there that even if it is not deindustrialization, stagnancy zarur hai. We are not going up, but we are stagnant at one point. Even if we are not coming down, but we are stagnant. Stagnant is a consensus. Everybody believes India's industry is stagnant. Some say that deindustrialize ho rahi hai, people are going back to agriculture. And there are proofs for this also that people are going back to agriculture. Ruralization of the Indian economy is happening, which should not have happened. It should have moved to these two, but this has not happened significantly. And this is a major problem. In all of these tiger economies, be it South Korea, Japan, 35%, 40% of the GDP comes from industrial sector. In India, it's only 13 to 14%. India की industry total से 27 है. उनकी अकेली manufacturing से 35 है. And manufacturing is the sector which is going to create jobs. It is the sector which is going to bring you tradability, exports. Beyond a point, service exports की limitation आएगी. Is this done? Structural transformation, what is premature? Write down reasons for premature deindustrialization. Reasons for premature deindustrialization. First, infrastructure bottlenecks. Infrastructure bottlenecks. Bottlenecks. Lack of availability of quality roads. Lack of availability of quality roads. Railway network. And poorly organized storage. And poorly organized storage has increased the logistics cost in India. Has increased the logistics cost in India to approximately 13 to 14% of GDP. To approximately 13 to 14% of GDP. In bracket you can write down China is 7 to 8%. US is 6 to 7. 7 to 8. 7 to 8, 7 to 9 के आसपास ही है. Thereby compromising the competitiveness of the products. Thereby compromising the competitiveness of the products. In the same point, write second line. A significant proportion of manufacturing units, a significant proportion of manufacturing units have to put up 100% power backup facilities has to put up 100% of power backup facilities, which increases their cost of production. Which increases their cost of production. Now, can you relate this with the missing middle in India? Why is small sector remaining to be small? Why it is not growing? Because logistics cost will increase. अब उनको ट्रैवल या ट्रांसपोर्ट कराना है अपना गुड, दे विल हैव टू बाय अ पिकअप ट्रक, वो पैसे लगेंगे. Running that will require money. Power is not consistent, you will have to employ a generator. So cost advantages are gone. How will you improve? Dwarfism और missing middle का reason है small sector के पास infrastructure के लिए पैसे नहीं है. Big industry can still adjust for margin because they are producing at scale. The small scale industry would never be able to do this because of lack of logistics will create a problem for them. उनके लिए cost और ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. They will not be able to grow. This is why dwarfism. The industry is not growing. Dwarf because of reservation, because of lack of infrastructure. Second, factor market rigidities. Factor market rigidities. These include poor availability of land. These include the poor availability of land. Archaic building laws, old building laws, vocabulary improve होती है हिंदू पढ़ो तो. High cost of capital. High cost of capital. Every day Hindu comes out with new words. And then on the explain page tells also know your English. That you don't know anything. High cost of capital. And poor availability of skills. And poor availability of skills demanded in the industry. Poor availability of skills demanded in the industry. Now, what is the reason why graduates are not employable? Not good education. हाँ क्यों नहीं है? वही काम वही इसलिए तो 3 साल 4 साल लगा रहे हो ना वहाँ पे. Job orientation, okay. हाँ? Skill oriented education नहीं है. Why there is no skill oriented education? तो बात तो सेम है, क्यों? Why is it not designed properly? The biggest issue is that industry and academia don't link up in India. The industry has to design the curriculum for you. They have to tell what skills are required. The academia is working on the previous skills, working on mostly theoretical knowledge where there is no practicals involved. Practical के लिए आपको academy और industry को बुलाना पड़ेगा. मारुति को जाना पड़ेगा industry में सिखाने के हमें क्या चाहिए. If you're just giving them theoretical knowledge and taking exams on the same theoretical knowledge, people are not learning anything. Any country without academy industrial link is not growing. Britain से लेकर Germany, if you know people who have gone out to study, you'll understand वहाँ पे theoretical knowledge is negligible. It's almost practical. It's a mechanical engineer, वहाँ पे सारी गाड़ियाँ लगी हैं. You have to learn there itself. You learn more by doing it, experience. It cannot come from theoretical knowledge. And theoretical knowledge in India is also not being improved. The syllabus is 1980s का syllabus. The papers are the same. Repeat हो रहा है same paper. Past year कर लो same आएगा. And now open book कुछ भी लिख दो. So what exactly is the skill being imparted? This is the problem. Industry and academia link is very weak. IIT Madras and a lot of IITs now are linking up with the industry where they are providing them space to provide infrastructure and also design curriculum so that you can have certain skills which are used in the industry. Demand जो skill है, सबसे बड़ा problem है skill supplied and skill demanded. There's a very big gap. The demanded and this. And in a lot of problems, in a lot of the service sector, the soft skills are missing. Basic manners, behavior. Because service industry doesn't require a lot of things, basic services. You just need to know little bit English. Even if you don't have that English skill, you need communication skills and basic mannerisms. Soft skills is also missing in the Indian population. Right on next. A complex regulatory structure. A complex regulatory structure leads to poor ease of doing business. A complex regulatory structure leads to poor ease of doing business. For example, taxation policy, trade policy, contract enforcement, environmental clearances, etc. Next, right, exchange rate fluctuations. Exchange rate fluctuations. See, India faces a very peculiar problem here. Now, foreign portfolio investment is one type of investment that doesn't invest in any machinery or land. Portfolio investment means they are only investing in India's stock market. Now, if a lot of people start investing in Indian stock market, and on top of it, India also gets a lot of dollars coming from services, export. Both of these things means that India has significant inflow of, and if India has significant inflow of dollars, what will happen to exchange rate? The exchange rate will not depreciate, appreciate. ये बढ़ रहा है supply. If supply increases, the dollar is going to move from 70 to 50. Now, most of the times the dollar has been appreciated in the country because investments have been huge. And if the dollar is in appreciation, what will happen to manufacturing exports? Their competitiveness will die. पहले ही competitive कम है, logistics and other reasons. They're all the more becoming less competitive because of the exchange rate movements. And this movement also happens on the opposite. The moment this flow is in the stock market, this can also go out. That means dollar moves out, depreciation, and depreciation means import bill rises. The problem is not that we are on one side or the other side, the problem is this movement happens too much. The volatile movement happens too much. Mostly we have appreciation, but if people start leaving out, which they can easily because they're investing in stock market, that means India's exchange rate is fluctuating too much. And if it is fluctuating too much, it is a problem for the manufactured goods you can't export because the competitiveness will get hit. And this when appreciates. When it depreciates, your imports become costly. What is beneficial for any activity, production activity, is a stable exchange rate. Whether good or bad appreciation, that is immaterial because you can adjust to the reality. But if it changes too much, then you can't adjust. That makes manufacturing quite risky because it is changing too much. Makes a problem. Services इसका problem इतना नहीं है क्योंकि services कुछ import नहीं करवा रहा है ज़्यादा. This is easier, this is why it can adjust. This cannot. So exchange rate fluctuations will impact the competitiveness of manufacturing exports. Is it clear? Write down this. Exchange rate fluctuations, an increase in foreign investments in India has led to appreciation of the rupee, which reduces the competitiveness of manufactured goods. Which reduces the competitiveness of manufactured goods in the export market. Which reduces the competitiveness of manufactured goods in the export market. In the next one, right? Since these investments are volatile, their exit from India increases the cost of imports. Increases the cost of imports. In bracket you can write down due to depreciation. Is this clear how exchange rate fluctuations hamper? In the next one you can write this. This fluctuations in the exchange rate market, this fluctuation in the exchange rate market this fluctuation in the exchange rate market hampers industrial activity or prohibits industrial activity. Is it clear how volatility is impacting? Problem is not बहुत सारे invest करेंगे. Problem is they are the ones which are bringing dollars. They can exit any time. Direct investment जब आती है, company में investment होती है, you can't take the money like this. ये तो stock market से it's very easy to take out the money. तो dollar inflow outflow बहुत click of a button पे हो रहा है. FDI जो है, अगर कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किया है या प्लांट लगाया है, उससे तो पैसा नहीं निकाल सकता ना एकदम से. स्टॉक मार्केट में तो एक सेकंड से, द मोमेंट पीपल टेक आउट मनी, दैट मींस डॉलर अवेलेबिलिटी इज गेटिंग लेस. राइट डाउन नेक्स्ट. लैक ऑफ परचेजिंग पावर. लैक ऑफ परचेजिंग पावर ड्यू टू हाई इनइक्वालिटी. This right, the demand for the top 1%, the demand for top 1% is met via imports. The demand of the top 1% is met via imports or large scale industry, whereas the small size industry provide goods to the majority. Whereas the small size industries provide goods to the majority. This means the market in India is segmented. Due to the low purchasing power the small scale industry will remain trapped. The small scale industry will remain trapped in a cycle of poor quality production, outdated technology, poor quality of production, cycle of poor quality production, outdated technology, and low levels of profitability. And low levels of profitability. Therefore, there is no incentive to expand. Therefore, there is no incentive to expand production. See what this problem is talking about. We'll discuss this in detail with 91 reforms. Now, when we are saying 91 reforms did not create a lot of jobs, only few people had jobs and incomes. The people who are having incomes, they are mostly the top 1%. We discussed how top 10% of the country is earning 25,000 per month. The top 10% का monthly income है, that is 3 lakhs per month. That means most of the income is with the 1%, they have the demand. And when they have the demand, they are buying what type of goods? Luxury goods mostly, that means their demand is met through imports or certain large scale industry. That means remaining 99% of the people, they don't have the money to demand any good. So from where are they getting their goods? The small scale industry. This is why very good or very bad, India does not have a missing middle because लोगों के पास पैसे नहीं है. This is a problem that has emerged in the country in the last 7 to 8 years, where the demand, because of the 91 reforms, since there are no jobs, the incomes are not rising. If incomes are not rising, I can only afford the goods which they are making. Now, when will they improve the production? When people will demand. I am producing a shirt worth 300 rupees and this is producing a shirt worth 5,000 rupees. There is nothing in between. Why? Because there's no demand in between. Either people can afford this or people can afford this. From the outset, it looks like India is a very big economy because it has a people. But the people, those who have demand, are very low. This is why MNCs are now quitting India. Ford left, Maruti started complaining. Maruti ka one of the biggest complaints is that we can't provide better quality because we don't have people who can pay money. This is why you're not getting better products, because of the vulnerability created during 91, that there are no jobs. Most of the jobs are informal. People don't have demand. This is why market segmentation has happened in India. The imports are large scale fulfill for the 1%. Rest 99% get their goods from small scale industry. They will not improve anything. Why? Because they know people can't afford it. They will not improve because the moment they improve any quality, the price increases. The price increases, there is no demand for it. This is why you'll see most of the products in India, either you will have very high selling products or the high cost products, or you have low cost. You will not have the middle path. Most of the goods in India, the shoes market, the clothing market, the telephone market, any market you see, either you will have this or this. In fact, after the pandemic, it was getting very difficult for the entertainment business to revive. PVR नहीं कर पा रहा था कुछ. Why? PVR could not, despite the movies being pathetic. वो reason नहीं है. Pathetic movies भी चलती हैं इंडिया में. Why were they not grossing anything? Why were they not getting the people? Demand problem. The moment they moved the price of the ticket from 400 to 99, everything was full. Despite the same movie being there. Because the problem is you don't have people who can pay money. Now, if this is the problem, if demand is missing, then industry will produce for whom? So this is a new problem which has happened in the last years. Hey, in 91 say, because jobs are not being created. We saw certain economic shocks in the form of demonetization, GST implementation, and then the pandemic. Demand has been severely hit. So people have money only for affordable, that is affordable goods, which are produced by this, despite the bad quality. तो ये improve होगा नहीं. तो ये demand side problem है missing middle की, कि demand ही नहीं है तो कैसे बढ़ा करे business. Is it clear why premature deindustrialization? The further part of the 91 reforms we'll discuss in the next class. Try finding reasons for service sector growth. Because one part of the discussion is no industry, the other part is why service. Find reasons for service sector. Rest part of 91 reforms and remaining planning commission and Niti Aayog we'll discuss in the next class. We'll finish growth tomorrow. Thank you.